Okay, it's 7 o'clock on October 2nd. I'll bring the Board of Selectmen's meeting to order, starting with a roll call from my right.
Paul Sanderson.
Dr. Durati.
Ron Morgan.
Jim Ralston.
Chip Huzzy. And we have a quorum, and the meeting is being recorded. All right, next order of business is an acceptance of a donation from Target.
This is $1,000 for the Heroes and Helpers program for the police department. It's an annual event where the police department choose a needy family in town, take them shopping at Target so that they can purchase Christmas gifts for each other. So we just need a motion to accept the $1,000.
I move to accept the donation of $1,000 from Target to the police department for the Heroes and Helpers program.
Okay, I will ask the public if they have any comments on this acceptance. Anybody does not want to accept it? Okay.
And I'll second it.
Can you second it? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. All right, the next item on the agenda is the library trustees expansion. You are on.
Okay, we're here again, and I thank you for having us this evening. Marcia McLaughlin here. Currently, I'm expecting some other trustees. Ron Lamar, who is our architect of record, Craig McLaughlin, and Leonard Schwab, who are members of the building committee, along with Ron and Dale Rockefeller, who isn't yet here, is also on the building committee. You all have received, I understand, I was out of town, but I understand Denise sent you our preliminary estimate, and it is, I will point out strictly that Bowen Construction Corporation was hired through LaValle Brensinger to do a cost estimate for us. So we're here to go over it with you in any way, shape, or form you would like. And I will probably be deferring to Ron and the members of the building committee for any direct questions you might have.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Well, I guess what's important is to help us understand the $3.5 million and how you're getting down to this. Some of the other questions I'm sure that people will have is how are you working with the church and the school on the necessary property rights that you'll have to complete those aspects of the project.
So just quickly, what you see here, I can just touch the keys. So this is, for anybody who doesn't know, this is obviously the existing libraries out in front, and we're building 9,000 square feet in the back of the building, and it's 2 stories. So the $3.5 million is 2.8 of that, almost 2.9 of that is for construction. Mm-hmm. In addition to this view here, when you're coming up the street, that's the other view that you'll see. Again, this is a concept design. So we would work with the town and the library moving forward after the vote passes, and you can see the 2-story structure there. The building itself, you can see, is we're kind of right up against the property line, if you will, but we are set back from the property line. And again, we'd like to work closely with your planning board and so forth. The school has also notified us of some drainage, roll-off drainage, I should say on grade, that they have coming off the school property. So they've given us the heads up on that. The yellow to the right there is the existing library. The blue is a 1-story connector, and then the box that you see. What we're trying to do is keep it a very simple structure, very simple to build in the back of the building. Parking, you can see here that that's the area, maybe the cursor works, there you go. So right where the cursor is, that's the area where we've talked to the school about building a parking lot. And there's also some discussion about paving around the church. And so my understanding, I don't know if one of you want to talk about the agreement with the school, is that it's all verbal right now. Mm-hmm. And they're looking that if the town is in favor of all of this, that they'd entertain going into a memo of understanding, so that that parking lot would become dedicated parking spaces when the library is open. And when the library is closed, the school would use it. So you can see the parking lot's open on both sides. But one thing they'd asked is that, and you can see this is just as wide as this is over here, that be two-way so that when the buses are there and things like that, people can come in and out of that back parking lot and not go through the school. But obviously, when the buses are not there or when the school is using it, the other access would be used. Then the other piece of it is the church. And so right now there's a dirt road that goes around the church. The library's property actually goes right up against the foundation of the church. And so the church has been contacted, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that they also are open to the idea of paving that area instead of it being gravel the way it is right now, which would obviously make plowing in the winter easier and so forth. The other thing that you see on here is right now, when you come into the library, you can park sort of head on to the library. That obviously causes some issues when you're backing up into the main road. So we would be looking to work with the Department of Transportation to put some parallel parking there, and then 2 handicap spaces here. So if you can imagine that gravel road being paved. So that gives us an additional 6 parking spaces up in that area, and also some more green space. So we would have, you have an existing sidewalk that comes down here now, and we would have green space between that and the curb. So we'd get standard parallel parking and 2 more parking spaces, and then we could, all of that would be handicap compliant, that whole area there. So in effect, you get, even though we don't need 6 handicap spaces, we would get 6 spaces which are relatively close to the building itself. Yep.
Those 2 spaces for handicap parking there, along with the dirt,
Yep.
that's a septic system.
Correct. So when we build this, we're going to obviously have to enlarge the septic. And so the thinking is,
But that's a parish house septic system.
understood. Yeah. So we'd be abandoning that, I guess is the simple way to put it. Right now, the church connects into the septic, and the library connects into the septic. And we would be building a new, no, you don't connect into that?
No.
Okay. So basically, we would be expanding the library septic and connecting the church to it.
Where?
Yeah.
Down here in this area right here.
I believe that's a septic system now for the
Correct.
library.
Correct. And we'd be expanding that.
And that's large enough for the number of people that would be in the large meeting rooms?
It would be.
Okay.
So it's
How
predicated.
many people and how large would it be?
Okay. The septic system would be large enough to handle 5 fixtures, 5 toilet fixtures.
There's 6 in the plan, it's okay.
There's 1 upstairs. So we only have to design it per code. And code right now calls for 4. We've put in 5 because if we do some things differently downstairs in the meeting room, you could get more people. Instead of you going 15 square feet per occupant, if you went 7 square feet per occupant. So we put in the extra restroom, and we can get to the, maybe it's easier if we look at the plan. So downstairs, what we talked about is instead of having a men's room and a women's room with multiple fixtures, is that we would have 6 unisex restrooms. So that gets around all of the male, female, transgender, so forth. And so with that, if you were to do the load calculations, if you will, on how big this room is and so forth, you really only need 5. We have 6 in the plan, and in fact, we have 7 because there's an existing one upstairs. In this area right here, there's an existing restroom. And we talked a little bit in the library about keeping that up there, even though it's not handicap compliant, it's just sort of for convenience, if you will, and it's existing. And so if we leave that restroom up there, but when it comes to the size of the septic system, we would obviously have our engineers make sure that everything is sized properly to accommodate those fixtures. So, and I guess to answer the, the sort of the fallback position, I guess, is if it wasn't big enough and we did have to rebuild this one, We just would have those parking spaces out here, and we would get rid of those too. So there are, when we do a concept design, we want to sort of have options to fall back on, if you will. So in other words, we're trying not to do the minimal, but we're doing it so that we know it accommodates everything. And then we do have flexibility as we go forward. The library itself, in the lower piece of the library, where the existing children's room is, that would become storage, mechanical, and restrooms. The new addition piece would become a lower level lobby, a children's room with its own children program room, and then it would have a large meeting room, which could be open to the community after hours. So let's say it's a Sunday afternoon and the library is closed. We would be able to lock this door here, this door here, and obviously the door to the storage room. And we'd be able to lock this door right here. And then all of that purple area and the yellow area would be open. So you'd have access to the restrooms, access to the drinking fountain, the elevator, and the stairs. And so if we go upstairs, again, if you came in on a Sunday afternoon, let's say, you'd be able to come across and get downstairs from here. There'd be a door here, sorry. And you'd be able to get to the elevator. And that door would be closed so that you couldn't get into the library. And so what this does is it provides another another room in the community that could be used when the library is closed. The nice thing about this is we put in dedicated electrical lighting and HVAC for that one particular room with CO2 sensors. CO2 sensor is a sensor in the room that measures the amount of carbon dioxide to bring in fresh air. So if there's a lot of people, you bring in more air. If there's not a lot of people, you bring in less air. And that is another sort of energy efficient way to use just that one room without turning on the utilities for the entire building. And so you can see that what you're getting in terms of an investment is 9,000 square feet of a 21st century library, if you will, that have the meeting rooms and the conference room, the staff areas. And I'm sure you've all been into the existing library, quite crowded and so forth. The existing library that's left over, which is what you see here in green, really becomes the Greenland living room. And that allows for large specialized collections to be put in that room. It's got the vaulted ceiling. We're going to restore that area, but it's going to look, smell, and taste the way it always does, just to keep the history of the town sort of intact, and becomes more of a reading room. So that's pretty much where we've gotten to. Are there any questions on the design before I go on to the numbers?
Not of design. No.
Not of the design, okay.
Could I just say one thing before we go to the numbers? On your question about the school board and the church, we do have letters of agreement in principle from both entities about the siding of the parking lot and the use of the area behind the church for a walkway.
When we get to that point, certainly the church being a private entity, they can make decisions for themselves and grant you whatever property rights you need. The school, I'm not sure if they have to have it on a warrant article for school district meeting because they're taking an interest in property and conveying it. And so that may be something to flesh out with them,
Okay.
especially as it's headed to the budget committee to see that they get this ready to get on the warrant so the decision can be made by the voters.
Okay. Thank you.
So what I'm trying to do here is just enlarge this a little bit so that you can see the numbers a little better. There we go. So just to go down, what we did is there's really two ways to price something. One is to go out to a professional cost estimator. Another one is to engage a construction manager who builds libraries for a living. And so what we did is exactly that because we wanted to get a true breakdown. And so Bowen Corporation, the owner of the Bowen Corporation, came down and visited the library, reviewed our plans, and took a look at it. And when we're all said and done, the library is going to be 11,628 square feet. So the 9,000 added on to the 2,600 now. And that's gross square footage, so that's going all the way around the outside walls, if you
The
will.
9,000 square feet represents what?
The box in the back.
The conference room?
Yes, everything. Like
Everything.
the whole building.
Okay, okay.
Yep, all 2 stories, the whole addition. So there's the one little piece that connects the new to the old, which is new,
Mhm.
and then the big box in the back, which is the 2-story rectangle.
Okay.
So when Andre went out there with his team, they look at, and they sort of broke it down by trade. And so the one thing is that they're telling us that they can, the phasing is that they build the new addition first, move everything into the new addition, and then do whatever restoration work and renovation work we're going to do on the existing building. So they've got some demolition costs in there of just under 18,000. We do have to cut some new holes in the existing building so that they connect. And we've got site work costs at just under $250,000. Concrete, just under 100,000. Masonry, about 140,000. Again, we're building a 2-story brick building. And that's because of the site needing to go up 2 stories. We've got metals in there. That's both structural steel and miscellaneous metals for stairways, things like that. Woods and plastics are broken down. Thermal and moisture protection, doors and windows. And the thermal and the moisture protection, along with the doors and windows, we've talked to the building committee about sustainability and driving the operational costs down. So this is actually better than code. And it's what we typically do in the town of Kingston and the town of Atkinson. We've used these wall systems, roof systems, and window systems. They're all fiberglass, so they're not metal and they're not wood. So the maintenance costs go down, but they're very energy efficient windows. And so the finishes themselves, again, we've worked with this builder before. We've talked to the building committee. We're looking at drywall finishes on the inside, some wood trim. We're looking at steel doors, steel door frames, if you will, and then wood doors. Same thing, we've got carpeting and different floor finishes as a concept design. Specialties run everything from restroom implemented fixtures, if you will, in terms of like, what do you call them, hand dryers, things like that, soap dispensers, exactly, all of those specialties, to grab bars on the handicap facilities. Equipment and furnishings in this number have to do more with window shades, things that are actually built into the construction, because you'll see another number for furniture and equipment later on, and that's for actual movable things. The conveying system, so we've got the elevator in there, we've got mechanical systems, electrical systems, and then the general conditions for a contractor, whoever the selected contractor would be. And then what they have in here is a contingency. And that contingency is basically, because this is a concept design, they're adding $125,000 to be safe. It's really called a bid contingency, if you will. And then that all totals down. And then there's a construction management fee. So the general conditions are things like the direct cost of a project manager and a superintendent and things like that. And the fee is what they do for overhead, profit, consumables, all the paperwork that goes along with a project. And so that's pretty much how we got to just under 2.9 million for that cost. Any questions about that one? And I do know that I keep emphasizing this, but it is a concept design right now. And so typically what happens is after the vote passes, we develop the design. And as we develop the design, we stick within those numbers. As you saw there, it's called a GMP. And they're giving us numbers that they pretty much guarantee. They say that we know it's going to be that or less. And the reason for that is we never want to go in front of a community with numbers and then say, oh, geez, now we need more money. So with that, outside of the general contractor, or the construction manager, if you will, there's site development costs, there's site survey and investigations, and that's everything from the actual site survey to permitting, to the permit documents we'll need to do. There's professional fees, there'd be an attorney to take a look at this, there'd probably be a bond counsel to help you get the best finance rate, if you will. The architect, all the engineers, all of the consultants. The fixtures, furniture, and technology, that's actually all the movable stuff, if you will. And that, again, is just a budget, because these are all budgets that we believe, based on past experience, you could have in the project. Then this contingency of $143,625, that would be a construction contingency. So the site development cost that you see there, the $22,000, that also includes a geotechnical engineer to come in and dig some test pits or drill some borings. And even if the town were to do it, so anything, like for instance, the town said, well, we have a backhoe, so we can go down there and dig some 5-foot test pits, then you save that money. Do you know what I mean? Because it's all open book, and so you see all of the costs and where they're going. But you still need a geotech to go down there and grab the dirt, do a sieve analysis, do a proctor analysis to make sure that the ground is going to support the weight of the building. Then when we get to construction inspection and testing, we've got numbers in there. During construction, you want an independent testing agent. It's required by code. And the independent agent comes down and makes sure that all of the structure is completely bolted together, fastened together the way that it should be. All of your concrete passes a test. I don't know if you're familiar with concrete testing. They're going to measure the slump, and they're going to measure the temperature and the water. So anyway, that's how we got to, I'm sorry, that was long-winded. But that's basically how we get to 3.5 million. And, you know, I mean, the philosophy of the building committee, and I share that wholeheartedly, is that everything's open book. And so we wanted to share every nook and cranny that we have in the design as well as in the numbers.
Okay, I have a question, a couple of questions. In the conference room, pretty good sized conference room, who would utilize that? Any ideas?
Anyone who wants to utilize it. We tried to create spaces to meet the needs of different groups that might want to meet in the library.
Okay.
Denise?
So you have the trustees meeting would be in there.
Mhm.
My friends meeting, which I just left early, would be in there. My monthly book discussion would be in there. There are other times that the Greenlands Women's Club have wanted to use space. I've had moms want to meet together and plan things for things going on at the school. So it would be open when I don't have a library function scheduled.
Okay. How many people does the...
Society would meet there when it starts to meet again.
Okay. How many people does the library employ right now?
I have 7.
Would you be needing more employment to hire more people if this were to be built? And if so, how many more people?
I don't know.
But you would...
I would need to schedule differently, and especially for Saturdays, because right now on Saturdays I only schedule 2 people. And in that building, I will need to have 3 people on at all times.
Mhm.
During the week, I have that most of the time, unless somebody's out at a meeting or a conference, vacation, or sick. Then that becomes an issue. So I will need to look at
You
staff.
need to increase your employment.
I need to increase hours maybe,
Mhm.
or people,
Okay.
or a combination.
And if I can add to that, from the building committee standpoint, we've tried to, with Ron's help, arrange things so that there's line of sight control of the exits with the minimum number of people. So in other words, our objective is to minimize the additional staffing that's needed.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Anybody else have any questions for the library?
I just wanted to, project estimate $3,579,000. But we already have approximately $500,000.
$636,000 as of August.
22.
Pardon?
622.
Oh, I
Because
thought
we
it was
spent,
Okay, 620, it's down to 622 now. Okay.
Market went up today.
He's right.
So we're actually looking at bonding, 3 million. So,
Any other questions?
I just, a couple of questions on next steps. Okay, obviously you've got to go to the budget committee. You need to get to the planning board. You would need to get resolved with the school whether or not they need to create warrant articles and then go through their process. And if in fact you're going to create the warrant article for this, then we need to have the necessary bonding hearings. Okay, so who's going to actually draft the warrant article?
Well, I've talked with Karen about working with me. I don't know if that's the right.
Right, it all depends on if the board is going to require it to be a petitioned article or not. If it's a petitioned article, generally I cannot be involved. But if it's something that the board is amiable to actually sponsoring as a selectman's article, then I can assist. Warrant articles that are for a bond have an earlier deadline than a standard bond article. So that deadline is January 5th. And January 16th is the very last day for the bond public hearing to even be held. So, and it has to be advertised by the 9th.
Could
So
you
it's
please
very, very tight.
your dates again for me?
January 16th is the last day for the public hearing to be held. There
For
is
a
no
bond.
first day
For a bonding
for
hearing?
a bond hearing. And it has to be advertised. The last day I can put a public notice in the paper would be January 9th.
Okay.
The last day for a warrant article for a bond is January 5th.
Thank you.
And those, like I said, those are the last days. So should there be, if everything is done on the last days and the hearing is the 16th and it snows, bond council will not approve a delay. So it's one of these things that don't wait till the last day.
No, we won't.
And so what I'm thinking of that for next steps, it would be getting in touch with the budget committee and making sure you get on their agenda, for an amount of time different than you would have for your normal budgetary consideration.
Right.
You may want to think of additional public hearings so that the people in the community know more about this. If you wait until January and it becomes a surprise, right now we have no idea how our budget's going to end up. We don't have any idea how the school budget's going to end up. If you're going to get some public support for your ideas, you probably want to get it done in the next, by December. And that's why on the question of who's going to draft it, whether it'll be ours, I certainly want some feedback from the budget committee first.
Okay. We did not want to supersede you by presenting anything outside of the selectmen.
Oh,
with our
no,
numbers and
I
stuff.
perfectly understand. That's why I say the next step, so that we can get this thing fully vetted by the budget committee first.
Right.
I have no idea what reception you'll get, whether it'll be good, bad, or indifferent, and what decisions you'll make based on that. But we certainly, I think, we continue to work with you, and we'll make our decision based upon what we hear in the community. But I think I'd strongly suggest your own public hearing, so that people can begin to learn more about the project and how it might benefit them.
Yes.
And I'm sure that you're going to get lots of questions about parking, lots of questions about septic, lots of questions about your relationships with the school. Those just exactly like we did tonight.
Right. Well, I will definitely find out about the school board and their need to create a.
That's because you're going to need a property interest.
Right.
It's land that's owned by the school, which is a different political entity than the town. So they would have to convey to the town.
Probably a leasehold interest in that parking area.
And I'm not sure that a lease is going to work for bond council. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I will find out.
I'd rather tell you now.
Denise said, how do we find that out?
Well, first of all, by having the school get in touch with the school district's attorney,
Okay.
because at some point, someone's going to have to draft up an interest in land to be conveyed to the town. Especially if you find out later on that you may need a reserved septic area under that parking.
Okay.
Because for them, essentially what it means is they're probably happy to have additional parking, but They may not be happy in having to convey some sort of a property interest. I don't know.
Right. Okay,
And I don't want to speak for them, but I'd rather say that should be vetted now,
right.
because it's obviously a key part of your plan.
And I can give Denise some names of bond counsel that we've used when we did our last bond.
Mhm.
That would be able to answer that lease question, if a leasehold interest works.
Okay, if she gets them to me, Denise, I'll get it.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay?
Anything else?
No, I think not. Well, thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Where you have maintained that,
Okay.
and then we'll invite you to get questions, what to.
Very nice. Okay.
Very good.
Take your thumb drive, yeah.
Pull that out of there. I should have known. I'll let you keep it if I didn't know what to stuff on.
No, that's fine. I've got my budget.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, the next item is the approval of minutes from Monday, September 18th. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
No, move we approve as presented.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And one abstention, I wasn't here. Okay, old business, we've got our budget reviews.
I pretty much tried to put in order distance of travel for department heads. So it actually starts with police and then building, fire, town clerk. But it's up to the board which if they want to change that order.
All right, Tara?
And I have some extra copies if anyone wants to look on. And everyone, these are a couple extra copies if anyone wants to look on. What? Give that out.
Someone's mad already.
How are you this evening?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm doing well myself. thank you.
Good. I try to not take up too much time because I know everyone does police is first. But
You'll be on time, don't worry about it.
So I've prepared what I usually prepare for the budget, so those familiar with it, it goes in exactly the same order. But for two of you guys, I try and put the table of contents in front. I know this isn't Karen's format, right, but I like to explain and have a little bit more transparency in what each line item is from and how I come up with the numbers that I come up with. So if you should have any questions later on before our next meeting or anything like that, you should be able to find it in the book.
Okay.
So obviously we have our vision and mission that we've had since I arrived here. The personnel roster, Lieutenant Sawyer is leaving for sure. We just don't have a date yet. She originally expected the end of October. She recently received the call that said it was probably not going to be till January. So we're kind of, it kind of holds up the budget in that I just have to keep budgeting for her just in case, it falls through or something happens. But I'll keep you updated with what I hear.
Okay.
Additionally, obviously, Carol Smith is retiring effective the end of this month. So I noted that there. So the actual operating budget of the police department compared with the last 2 years is the next sheet. I did in this budget put in a full-time administrative assistant. As you can see in my budget, it's only a $1,400 difference. However, the majority of the cost for that would be medical insurance. So that appears in Karen's budget, And I think the way she formats it, it shows what kind of benefits package actually is attributed to the police department on those pages.
You assume a family plan, right?
That's what my assumption is. And the position is already in New Hampshire retirement, because it's a 35-hour position, so that's not an additional impact.
Okay.
So you'll see I put in blue and red the percentage difference in my budget with, you know, a part-time admin and a full-time admin. Again, that's just my part of the budget, which is the cheap part. The personnel is on page 4. The increase, you'll note, is not 1%, it's 3%. And I did this based on a couple of different things. I didn't just pick a number out of the air. In the back of the packet, you'll see a couple of things. One of them is Thornton and Associates, which was a survey that Karen was part of. And sorry, it's in the back on you have tabs.
Oh, okay.
The first one is Thornton Associates. Rye did a survey, and they chose 22 towns. I'm not really sure what that was based on, but quite frankly, for the police department, it only includes the police chief and the lieutenant. So it doesn't really go over everything. So then you'll see that I did a wage study. I sent out an email to all the police chiefs in the state asking for different information. So it's a little bit confusing if you just look at it. I have 3 different 3-page summaries. One is for us compared to the entire state. So 69 different jurisdictions responded. So as compared to the 69 that responded, we were 2.5% behind currently. Then we did Rockingham County. 25 out of 31 or 32 jurisdictions in Rockingham County responded, and for that we're 2.5% behind. I'm sorry, 2.05% behind.
Behind the average?
Yes.
Behind
the average, actually you'll see in here, I did the averages, then I did the average minus the minimum and the maximum.
Okay, the median.
To make sure that it was verifiable information. And that's why I included all of this. I know it's just a lot of numbers, but it averages all the towns. And then in the red, I took different means and did that. The last one is the Seacoast average. And that was 11 out of 16 jurisdictions that are in the Seacoast. And we are 3.09% behind them. And that is a collection of all of my positions, only my positions, versus these average, which are actually medians that I compared them to. So here's my concern. You know that I had a part-time opening and a full-time opening this year. I filled one by stealing someone from Northwood. I filled the other by stealing someone from Nottingham. Don't feel bad at all, they're wonderful. But that's what happens in the Seacoast, quite frankly, is we steal from one another because, you know, these are the people that live here and already work here and know the areas. The Northampton deputy chief went over to Stratham this year. Actually, Stratham, I think, has picked up 2 or 3 from Northampton. Rye went to Newington or maybe Northampton, but we pick from each other. And so my concern is obviously keeping my people as much as I can, and we lose some to attrition, retirement, especially with my particular department because everyone has so much experience. But I definitely want to attract certified, experienced, rational, logical officers to come here when I need to. So I put in a 3% raise on everybody across the board in the police department. If you wanted to go position by position, I could do that. Some are more off than others, some are less off. So I can do anything you want, but I think it's very important that we at least keep up. This is obviously now to now. So if we do 1% and everyone else is getting 3% or somewhere around there, which is anecdotally what I've heard, then now we're 5% behind. And then at what point, do I start actually losing people? So that's what I'm asking for. If you want to talk anything about any of the numbers that I brought, I put them all in a spreadsheet so I can sort them by anything you want or go over it with you or whatever. At the very back of that, I just put in what currently each person makes. So you can compare it to any of the figures that are in there, or averages or medians. So that is where the payroll figures came from. Obviously, the part-timers only cover 16 hours a week right now, so that is considerably down from when we had 7 full-time officers. So the rest of them is just 3%. The overtime breakdown, we went over this last year pretty well, that we only cover about 32% of our overtime now that we have the 8th guy. So with only covering 32%, that includes obviously sick time, everyone's vacation time, personal time, if they're out on disability, knock on wood that doesn't happen. We have to cover sometimes for court hearings, for public service things, all that stuff. So I do break that down by hours, just so you can see exactly where I got the figure. And I averaged the last 3 years of sick time to get that average. And again, we still only covered it about 32%. Then I go over the line items, what falls under each individual line. I have a full list of each thing that falls underneath there. Gas is always a question, of course. Right now, the state still has a bunch of gas that they bought at $2.67. So they've had that for probably 18 months now. They're hoping to run out by November. So then they accept bids and then we see where we're at. Right now, it's not even close. We use the WEX cards, which gives us the price that you see minus all the taxes, which is around between 41 cents a gallon. So it would really have to be up at like $3.10 for it to make sense for us to go back to the state. So, but that's always an open conversation. I call every couple of months to just see where they're at. So, unfortunately, they took out the pumps that were in Northampton, so we would have to drive to Hampton to get gas. Hampton or Epping, I guess, would be the two closest.
Brentwood?
Brentwood, no, they don't. No, they just have the shed. New equipment, I always try and go over. We replace a taser once a year. We'll probably keep doing that. You're supposed to replace the taser every 5 years, and we have 8 people, so we're going to replace them every 8 years. We just keep turning over the oldest one. And it's worked for us. We haven't ever had a time when we were down so bad that we couldn't, make it through that. The radar I put in, of course, we put in for a grant every year. If we don't get that 50% grant from the state, we don't buy it. So this will be the last radar that we need to update all of the old ones. The AED is the same thing. I think that they recommend to replace them every 5 or 6.
I think it's 6.
Well, we're replacing them at 10. So, we're trying to get as much time as we can, but, we've had a couple of old ones that haven't worked when we went to go use them. The building maintenance, initial clothing allowance I did up from $3,000 to $4,000 this year. Obviously, I know I'm going to be hiring somebody as soon as Dawn leaves and a promotion is made, then I'm going to be outfitting somebody, and costs on that keeps going up. Other increases, I don't think I have any other areas of significant increase. You'll see that the grants that we applied for total $28,753. I'm supposed to find out if we got those or not by the end of this week. Usually we know before now, but it's just been a difficult transition to a new electronic system for them, I think. I do a 10-year comparison just so you guys can see. Obviously, I've been here since I did the budget for 2015 since then, so you can see those differences. Capital improvement, the only thing that's on my radar for years out will be a new roof once it ages up. So I'd like to begin putting little bits of money into into some sort of a fund.
CIP.
Yes, CIP, thank you, Jeff. And then at the very end, I always include the town revenue that comes to the town from special details. That's obviously not the revolving account, it's not the cruiser amounts. This is the part that comes to the town, and basically what it does is offset some of Liz's time and the time it takes to process the details and things like that. So not large amounts, but it does offset.
And the details still pay for the cruisers, though, right?
The details 100% pay for cruisers and some equipment that we add or take out of the different vehicles. And we used it, I think, to strip the vehicle last year when we sent it over to town, and we try and take as much as we can. Anything that has directly to do with the details, we take out of that. And we still have a good balance in that. I'm not sure what it is currently, but, you know, it's good because we have people that really want
All
to
the
work.
cruisers in pretty good shape right now?
Very good shape. Yep, we just got a new one maybe a month ago, and it's going to be hitting the road as one of our primaries, so everything's finally black and white.
Okay.
Couple questions.
Sure.
Your cruisers, are they the Ford ones that are having the CO problem?
Yes, yes, they are. And we have CO detectors in them now. I think the thought is hoping that at some point Ford will make a fix that you can bring it in and do something. I know that they're doing that on all their newer cruisers, but they haven't actually recalled unless you're having an issue.
Okay. Second question, on your salary numbers, does that include the impact of longevity pay?
It does not.
Okay.
It does not, because I didn't compare with anyone else having longevity pay or differentials or anything else. I wanted base pay.
Okay. And around here in the Seacoast, do you know anecdotally if your competitors have a longevity pay policy?
Yes, most of them do. I can't say all of them because a lot of the union contracts I haven't been through with a fine tooth comb. But yes, a lot of them do. I would say more than half.
Okay, so it would be helpful for us when we're trying to deal with these issues. You know, like you say, base to base is a great comparison.
Right.
It would be nice to know, because we're considering our longevity policy. Are we higher, lower, whatever?
Yep.
Because that does impact, and that impacts your comparison percentages.
Yes.
So if we were substantially higher there, then we're really not that far off.
Right.
But I don't know.
But what's difficult about that, and the reason I got, you know, I was getting caught up in the weeds when I actually put the survey out to start with, is that there's shift differentials, there's donning and doffing, there's all these other things that some police departments get.
In the union contract, yeah.
Or even without a union contract. I mean, donning and doffing is kind of rare, I think, without a union contract, but.
Can you explain to us what donning and
Oh,
doffing is?
sorry, 15 minutes before and after your shift for getting ready and dressing up and putting everything on, and 15 minutes to take it off.
Okay.
In and out of street clothes.
Yeah. I'm not suggesting that we have that, but you know what I mean? So I can say these people don't have longevity at all, and we do, but these people have an evening differential, a midnight differential, you know, all these different things. So that's why I ended up saying, if I can't do benefits to benefits, you know what I mean? Because I could have gotten into the weeds of, you know, what percentage they pay for insurance, and all my people, you know, of course, complain like all people do. Well, they don't have this, or they do have this, and so it becomes such a, I don't know that I can have a number that is apples to apples.
Okay.
Because of that. I can try, I can do my best and ask everybody to respond with how they work things.
Well, just for myself.
Okay.
I think that most of your competitor departments would be in the Seacoast.
Yes.
Because people
Absolutely.
live pretty locally.
Yes.
Okay. And therefore, those are the folks that we are more likely to lose to.
Yes, I agree.
And so therefore, we want to be competitive with our direct competitors.
Yes.
Okay. That would be helpful to your presentation. Where are we above? Where are we below? Where are we off?
That was in here for
the base.
For the base.
But
Yes.
when an officer's taking a look at this, the officer's going to look at everything.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
right?
It's true. It's just hard to, it's really, I've tried it. I really have, but I'll try it again. I'll do whatever I need to.
I'm only thinking, and again, I don't think we need absolute mathematical accuracy.
Right.
But If, for example, you were able to take from another department because you were substantially better with one particular aspect of things, okay, and that became attractive to the person that came here,
Yes.
that's what we need to know.
If you look in the survey that RIDE had done, the benefits themselves are broken out. And where we compare, I've marked in, I don't know if you guys got the marked out copy I gave them.
Yeah.
Most of the benefits, we were approximately the same.
Okay.
88% on the health insurance was pretty standard. There was a couple that were still at 90 and some 85s. We were exactly the same for sick days, vacation days, all matched.
Okay.
We were 1 day ahead of the majority for personal days.
Okay.
Most of them had 2 days personal, we had 2.
I think we were behind on vacation, maxing out.
Maxing out, yes.
Everyone
We
else
max
did.
out at 20 days, and most max out at 25 days.
Right.
Okay.
So we maxed out sooner or less of that. Our longevity amounts were higher, but started later. All the longevity policies started at 5 years, and ours started at 10. But our amounts were higher. That was a big discussion at the board when it was put into place.
Well, yeah, and where longevity is hard is that messes up your overtime.
It does. With the too long, the number of employees earning it continues to drop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this, unfortunately, I mean, they had a professional company obviously do this, but if you look at the 22 towns, I don't know how they came up with these 22 towns, to be honest.
I think they were all the same population as Rye.
I'd be surprised that Exeter, the same as Rye,
Right,
and Franklin, and Londonderry.
true.
Oh.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know, so,
Londonderry's 30,000.
Right.
yeah,
It
so,
was- If I participate and give our answers, I would get
Yeah.
a copy of
Yes.
this report, so.
and I liked reading through the report because they were able to take the time on every individual benefit to do that, but I just couldn't make sense of why these 22.
Again, I just, as you come
I
back
will do as much as I can.
and continue your presentation, your argument is a good one, which says I want to stay competitive.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah,
And I think we just need the real information about where are we off? What would make us non-competitive? And part of your argument is 1% would make us non-competitive,
right,
you know?
Right.
Okay.
right.
But let's put it in the overall context, you know, and is there something else that we did or might do here that would improve our ability to be competitive?
Yes,
That's all.
Yep.
And again, I don't need absolute mathematical precision.
right.
I mean, part of the reason we're competitive is this is a pretty good place to work.
I agree.
It's not as dangerous as many places, you know? I mean, it's got its moments, but I mean, it's a pretty good place to work.
I agree.
So, we want to maintain that and keep our good people, like you
Right.
say. But we are gonna have to justify all this in the budget committee too.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
just trying to anticipate and deal with the argument.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, you know, when I was in Newmarket, I used to do these surveys all the time, like for the department, at the direction of the chief. And we never, the benefits are so different from place to place and so varied on different times and things that it was just really hard to accurately compare them. But, you know, I can at least come up with a spreadsheet and you can at least see who has what.
Well, and again, on what would be important for an officer making a decision, because a certified officer now, wanting to change, has options.
Yes, has a lot of options. It's definitely an employee's market, as it were.
And so we don't want to artificially hamstring you,
Right.
you know, or give away the farm and create the next round with everybody else.
Yeah, right?
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for?
I have one question.
Sure.
Was there a raise increase last year, and if there was, percentage?
What was it, 2?
2.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay, building inspector,
Would you like me to move over there, or am I all right here? or-
wherever you feel comfortable. Don't have to throw the tomatoes as far as you're there.
So, first of all, I want to thank the board for the funds that were made available to get the GIS up and running. I don't know if you had the opportunity to use it or not. It just recently became available to the public through a link on the town's website. Personally, I use it every day. It helps me tremendously to be able to see where wetlands are and be able to show people approximately where their house is located on their lot. It's an excellent tool for my department. I believe that Tara uses it as well. I know that lots of folks have been asking about it. Real estate people, banks, and so forth are all interested in it. And soon I will find out exactly how many people are using it. But like I said, it just recently became available, and so it's kind of premature to see how many people are using it. As far as my budget goes, my biggest concern is the adoption of the 2015 codes. When that happens, I'm going to have to buy more books. They were supposed to have been adopted last year, and they weren't. There's some issues with moving forward with those codes, but they're now, their 2015 codes. They're already coming out with the 2017 codes, so they're getting behind again. The biggest thing that is on my budget is my request for a 10% raise. I was before the board last year, and I asked for a 15% raise, and I ended up getting the standard 2%. I understand the situation, but from my perspective, if you fail the first time, come back and try again. I think my numbers are reasonable. The numbers that I came up with when I submitted this on September 7th, coincidentally, matched pretty well with the recent survey that was done by a private entity, Thornton and Associates, which Tara was just discussing. What I'm asking for is the average pay rate that was referenced in that private review of wages for people doing my position. So I think that kind of fortifies my request. As far as how the department is doing to date, looks like we're doing great. So far this year, we've already collected $162,000 in fees. Last year, the total amount for the whole year was $124,000. The big kicker is that we got Bluebird Storage, which was an $86,000 permit fee. So that kind of really skews the numbers. The other thing is that with Bramber Valley kind of peaking out, there's only 12 more houses that need to be built there. That's
You're down to 12 more now?
They only have 12 left to obtain. So that's, kind of phasing out. But CB Way is coming up. There's 9 houses that are going to be going in there soon. So as far as my revisions to the fee schedule, I want to make sure that the department is a cost recovery based department. And, I'm sure that if I make that slight adjustment that I discussed with the board quite some time ago, that we could be a cost recovery department. However, this year, we're making money for the town, obviously considerably.
Any questions from the board for the building inspector? How are we doing with the planning board? You working pretty closely with them?
Working with the planning board, yep. Yep.
Well, I guess I'd have to say, as a planning board person,
Okay.
It would be helpful if you would actually come and talk to us. The memos don't help. You have given us some ideas of things that we might change. We really need to discuss them with you in person. So that's a very important part of that. I have some concerns too on the enforcement side. There's no question here on the inspection side, but I really don't know what's going on with enforcement. I can tell you, at last Thursday's planning board meeting, we had a case where an individual was coming in for a site review. And there seemed to be a real problem because the building itself was one building that had been divided down by 3 that the planning board had not approved. And so it was a pretty difficult situation when we had one tenant coming in asking for something when the building owner had asked for nothing. So it's an enforcement matter.
And I'm aware of that situation. I've already sent a letter out to the owner a month prior to that, for that last meeting, and I have not received any response from him. I plan to go back after him and find out exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, and so when we do enforcement actions, it's important that this board, because we're the ones that authorize legal actions, hear about that. And I think we all know. Have we heard any particular enforcement actions that you're involved in now that would involve the selectmen and legal counsel?
Most everyone I've dealt with, once they become aware of an issue, they correct it.
That's good. Okay, but are there any that, like the other?
There are none that I'm aware of.
Except the one over here who's ignored you so far.
Correct, but it's been a short amount of time.
I don't know. The fellow who was in there said he'd been in there for a year. So just questions for that.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay. Thank you.
Very good.
Fire department. So are you counting down?
What?
A year ago, you said you had 2 years to go.
Yeah, I know.
You down to 1 year now?
Yeah, who knows? The revolving door's still going. Went through the budget, because we're still waiting for the study to come back, which way we're gonna go with the fire department. We did, as you can see, we're not really way up on any part of the budget. The main reason it went up, the part-time wages went up, was because of we didn't budget for the whole year because we only started in April of this evening shifts, which are working pretty well. We got some evenings that aren't being covered, but it's working out pretty well. We've got a lot of people that are staying at the fire station if they live more than 10, 12 minutes away. We got some outside people coming in from different towns helping also. We're still having a revolving door, of course, on that because we got people, one person I thought was going to stay, it looks like they're going to be moving away until South Carolina. So we lose another person, so then we're back in the revolving door, and every time we get a revolving door, the fire gear doesn't fit them, and we gotta start working our way back in the fire gear, which fire gear right now is about $3,500 just to put people into the fire gear, and we've got some expired gear, plus we got some new people coming in. We are sharing a lot of people with other departments. I'm trying to do the best I can of getting the other departments to let us use their gear and vice versa if they're going over to their town also. So that's going on a part-time wages on that. EMS, back a little bit, I guess. The supplies are going up because we having to buy more and more supplies and more medical stuff, needles, because we are a paramedic service. The needles are going up, and that's been going up just a little bit.
And this, part of the increase was the addition of Narcan.
Yeah, the Narcan, we're trying, and that's we've done 2 in the last 3 months with Narcan, so that's coming. It's not a Manchester, it's not a Portsmouth, but we're a little town, and 2's too many, of course. But we've had someone show up here at the fire station the other night at midnight. We got toned out, guys, got toned out. Our guys got here, the guy who brought him here was doing CPR on him. So, the problem with Narcan, once you bring them back, they have the rights to not even stay,
Leave you out,
so,
but you gotta bring it back.
right.
Okay.
We're still waiting on the study, of course. We gotta figure which way we're gonna go with that. Building, is being worked on. I think Chip's got Jim doing some.
Jim completed a report, I think we got it last meeting. We just gotta
I
put everything
gave you a
together
copy
and
of
start
that.
getting prices on everything.
I think Jim was looking at the roof and also looking at the bottom of the steel beams where the water was, and
Yeah.
it was repaired once. That's the main thing in the siding.
Yeah, aesthetics.
Okay.
We end up taking the volunteer sign down, which I'm trying to get put back together and put it back up, but I'm trying to get it done to volunteers to make a vinyl sign instead of a wooden sign, because that sign is,
So I put that up overhead and make a new sign. That'd be my 2 cents
yeah,
for it.
we're trying to figure out, because we want to keep the town, when it was established, and try to keep the volunteer sign the best we can, but the sign we took down is pretty bad. So we're working on that, I'm working on that also, but we're trying to do that at no cost to the town. As far as vehicles go, the oldest vehicle we have right now is a pickup truck. That's a 2002. We could probably get another 2 or 3 years out of that until they start rusting out like the rest of them. We're having trouble, because with the calcium on the road, and it's, you get much more rust.
What is a new one? An idea?
Pickup truck,
Yeah.
we're gonna be probably about 45,000.
45,000.
Yeah, and that's just utility, which we carry, we do have many radios in it, and have all kinds of speedy dry and pads, and, of course, we still got the trailer, and the trailer's been working out very well, pumping basements, and all the extra stuff we need, and we just hook it up to the pickup truck and go bring it to the scene.
Your pickup truck would probably be a good candidate for a CIP also. Start now.
Okay?
Okay.
Other than that, there wasn't a lot of changes at all.
Building maintenance, then, I'm going to assume is probably going to jump. Is that right? Or
It's probably
What I'm looking at is probably a warrant article, because it's not, the repairs over here are not gonna be cheap.
Okay.
And it would be a one-time,
At one time, yeah.
rather than ongoing maintenance.
Okay.
And I hope when we do that spec or whatever, the estimate, that we look at those windows also.
Okay.
Yeah,
And,
those windows up overhead have been there, and they're all fogged up.
and as we look at it too, other towns like Brentwood have gone to Revision Energy and put solar up top. If we're rebuilding a roof, we should probably look at that as well.
They made a solar farm out in front of the station, they're not on top of it.
I understand,
Yeah, they
but
did a
the point is,
We got a spot right over here we can do it.
big field, by the way.
yeah,
They
the point,
did
yeah,
a great job, I was there the other day.
so that should just be part of our building maintenance ideas. Because they put it in at no cost and they own the system,
They put it in at no cost.
pretty much.
And the savings that you get on your electricity goes to pay that back for a certain number of years. And when the system is paid back, then you own the system and have your own savings.
But we don't know how long that off is gonna even be around, so we might wanna jump on the bandwagon sooner than later.
To get it evaluated at least.
Sure.
Because they're doing all the town buildings from what I'm understanding with that.
I will call revision.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm hoping to see the study back by the end of the month. They were here one whole day, had good conversations, and we're working on that right now.
Okay.
My question for you is this. We're gonna be getting that back, and that'll be really important as we go forward.
Mhm.
But is it pretty clear that we're not going to be able to adopt any regional solutions with our neighbors, and we're going to be looking at least at a full-time fire chief?
I'm not sure. We're not gonna be able to do anything with the other departments, because we all a lot of us sat down with the other departments,
Yeah, I mean,
some
we
other
tried.
departments.
We tried, it didn't work out.
As far as the full-time chief goes, if we get the right person, I'm not saying we need a full-time chief, but we're gonna need some full-time people in there, so they see the same people all the time in the station.
Okay.
My opinion on that is if we had 2 people, I don't care if they're firefighters or lieutenants or whatever, that they come into the station, and it'd probably be better if we had lieutenants to come in, see the same face, and they can make decisions and get the people motivated to do things in the station. Right now, myself trying to do what I'm doing and run my own business is pretty tough, but full-time chief, I'm not sure if that's the answer or not.
Well,
That's something we really need to look at a little bit more.
yeah, one thing I'm thinking too is the potential of moving the building inspection function under the fire department, the way it is in many, many towns across the state. Because if we had no building inspector, the fire chief would be the building inspector. And so in a lot of other places, the inspection and code enforcement function is under the fire department. That would be a full-time person, okay, who would be able to assist in a whole bunch of ways within your operation too. But I'm trying to think here too.
We already had that kind of, when we had Myrick here, because he was the deputy chief, it worked out pretty well.
Do fire chiefs, generally speaking, have the qualifications to be building inspector?
I don't think it's so much of a cross.
It's not much of a cross, yeah.
They would just go to the training program, they offer it in Mass all the time.
Yeah, the training and most of the training programs now are online. And the building inspectors, it's an online course.
Well, I think that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking too, to try to help you personally here. You know, if we do nothing in our budget the way we're presenting ourselves right now, then that means another whole year of cycle before we can move on to whatever we have to do. And so I'm trying to think of building something into the budget now that will allow you the freedom to do what you want to do. Okay, believe me, I'm not trying to replace you or throw you out the door or nothing. But I would like to be able to get.
My wife would like you to throw me out.
Yeah, my wife would like it if they threw me out of the door too. Yeah, and what I'm thinking is getting a word out to the town that we need to put resources into this department and this function. And it's not fair to you to wait another whole year when we just get forward and put it out there and do it. Okay, we'll have the MRI study back as to exactly what that might be, but we need to put real numbers in here for your department so that.
Which I couldn't do because we weren't sure where we were going.
Exactly. Oh, no, it's not a criticism. We're at the very beginning of our review, but I think it's time to put the resources towards this and maybe look at a reorganization of that function so that we can actually accomplish what you need to accomplish and let you go forward.
Well, I think it's definitely worth pursuing and looking into. I think something the board should discuss. Yeah. And as you said, you know, full-time fire chief versus maybe a couple of lieutenants. You know, I just think the whole idea, you know, incorporating the building inspector's job with that, you know, you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I think it's worthwhile, definitely worthwhile looking into.
Because if you look at the way that New Hampshire codes are put together and the enforcement statutes are put together, if you don't have a dedicated building inspector, you have a fire chief, and the fire chief's in charge of everything. So it's a natural fit into the way every law is written for this type of function.
We had the deputy chief over here as a building inspector. It was a lot easier, except for trying to get the people to come in as volunteers.
Yes.
He couldn't do as many calls as he'd like to do, and I wouldn't want to use that person as person to do a call. But if someone happens to be calling sick at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we go over and tell them, hey, we got a problem today, can you help us out?
If they're just here as a full-time administrative person even. with all the work that goes through your department administratively.
Well, it's just been crazy, and if I told you I was doing 100% right, I'd be lying.
And you have commercial duties, commercial inspection duties, you have other boiler inspection duties and things like that. It really is a natural fit.
Okay, well, it's, that's a subject for a later
Yeah,
meeting.
and I have to tell you, when we were doing some of our more contentious road renaming, okay, at least some neighborhoods believe we have full-time dispatch sitting in the building. They believe that we have 24/7 coverage of all
Fire
different
department?
types, yeah, of everything, and they
They've
were,
always thought that.
Yeah, a lot of people
Including the
thought
dump.
that.
yeah.
Chip and I did so many ambulance calls together, it was crazy.
So I just think it's high time to let our citizens understand that, no, some of those things aren't the case. And we're trying to move, progressively towards improvement, but we gotta tell them what's real.
We're almost at the call number that we were at last year for the whole year, and we got 3 months left.
Okay.
Mhm.
So
And
that's
it's just more and more and more calls.
and the chance of a regional solution, I think, is really not good.
Right. And in the budget I got now, I gotta replace some fire gear, plus I got some people coming in that I gotta buy fire gear for, so I'm gonna have to pull out of different line items in my budget just to get them up to snuff.
Yeah.
Which, I don't have a problem doing that, but we just, something else is gonna back up a little bit. But I think protective clothing for the fire department.
So I think we need to take an approach that, deals with more reality, and put the resources towards this that we need to put towards it.
Okay.
And again, I give you a 2-year notice, but I'm not gonna walk out with nobody around.
Right.
And nor am I trying to push it, but I also don't want to sit here and artificially keep a budget low that effectively traps you for another year without any options. I don't think it tells the people the truth, and I don't think it's fair to you.
And to hire full-time lieutenants, I did couple surveys, it's almost between $90,000 and $100,000
Per person.
per year, yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me.
I did some surveys on that, and, if they were out on holiday or on vacation, we'd have to use the part-timers still, and so that budget, some of the budgets still have to be there for the part-timers, which,
Well, and when we look at our police department with approximately 8 people, we have $800,000 budget, so $100,000 a person is not an unreasonable estimate.
the problem, every other towns that ended up being full-time, worked 1 million to 1, 2, 1, 3 on small towns.
Okay, well, let's definitely, debate that at a later date, and,
Yeah, and that's all I'm trying to do
Yeah.
tonight, is just.
yeah, try to get the ball rolling.
So at this point, we're just kind of waiting for the study to come back, so
Yeah.
then we can sit down and figure out which way we're going.
Exactly.
Well, and it would be helpful, I think, if you called them up and said,
I'll give them a little push.
well, A, that we've started, and B, that we really need this, so that we can craft a proposal that has some support that we can get to the budget committee.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for the chief? Thank you, Ralph.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I need that back.
Pretty fair and all.
Okay, town clerk.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna be a lot easier than he is. I hope. These here. I must say Ralph left this chair nice and warm. Sorry, Ralph. Okay, here, where are we? It's like on one page. Okay. I had some increases along the same lines as Tara. I increased the town clerk's salary and my deputy's salary by 3%. I did sort of the same thing. I put out an inquiry to all the Seacoast towns and asked them to respond to me on what, not just for my salary, but overall, the whole town, what they were doing as a whole for their employees. And it ranged from like 1.5% to 5%. I think out of all the towns, one was union, which I discounted. The others, and there was only one town that went on merit raises. All the rest were cost of living, basically, or whatever. So therefore, I put in the 3%. The other issue that I had to add, as it stands right now, our treasurer will only make town deposits. That means taxes and town motor vehicles. The person that's there now has refused to do the state deposits, and we have to go every day to the bank to make the deposits for the state because that's what they require. So I put in mileage in here, somewhere in here, it's about $1,300, a little over $1,300. However, seeing that we had the warrant article last year, that you're going to probably be hiring a treasurer as opposed to having a treasurer elected. Just as a suggestion, I would suggest that whomever that person would be, have them make our deposits, and that money will not have to come out of my budget. And, you could remove it because that person would make bing, bing, the town deposit, and then go to the TD Bank, which is everywhere. So that. The other, I'm just looking through here, I just covered myself. All my other numbers are they're hard, pretty much hard numbers. I've received all my support documents and they went up a little bit, maybe $100. So on support from motor vehicles and taxes and so forth. The only other thing, and I talked to Karen about it, I found out yesterday that we're going to be able to scan in with this new update, this vision update that's coming out this month. So if you come in with your registration, we can just scan it and it'll automatically go into our computer. And the scanners are about $250 each, so that would be Amy and I, but I hope in my budget here I can find $500, but just that is not included in here. And I went with the preservation of the books, again, which are about $1,000 a book for 4 books. And everything else is pretty much the same. Our conference costs we get those right away. Those are hard numbers. And I can't think of anything else. I'm just looking here to see if there's anything else. Part of the reason that I went with the 3%, just to explain, is because I know that our health insurance is going to go up, and also our retirement. Is that right?
Retirement's not changing.
I thought you said that the retirement costs are going to change.
Not for employee.
But
employee percentage doesn't.
Yeah, but if the rate goes up, we're going to have to pay a higher percentage, wouldn't we?
No, not on. That's a statutory amount. That doesn't change.
Okay.
It changes on the employer side.
On the employer side only, okay, that was my thinking, but looking at this survey Karen also gave me a copy, we're a few bucks under per hour, both of us. I'm 3 or 4 and Amy's 2 or 3, so that's why I put in, I had done it prior to that, but that just made me realize that we're a little bit under. So that's pretty much it. And then, does anybody have any questions?
Just tell us about elections next year.
Elections, we have 3 elections next year. I think Karen, we talked to Gus and we put it in there. We've got a town election in March, a primary in September, state primary, and a state election in November. And a lot of the laws are changing. We've got to go for new training. All the supervisors have to go for training because of the way the same-day registrations are being held. The forms are all different. And so Gus and Colleen are on board to go to Concord to get the trainings. There's several training sessions scheduled.
Any new machines have to be purchased?
Just no.
No, what we've included is the programming for the voting machines. For the 3 elections.
Yes.
They requested an increase to the supervisor's salary by $200 apiece. The election workers goes from 1,000 last year to 2,100 for the 3 elections. Election expenses, he's budgeted at $1,500 to get a new laptop, and then the miscellaneous things that happen during the election, pens, pencils, food, that kind of thing. He had looked at new voting booths that would hold 4 people in a booth. We were able to find the budget, enough money in the budget to buy them this year. So we have 3 sets of these 4, so it gives us 12 more voting booths, gets us closer to the required number.
It is the required number.
Okay.
Okay. Based on
Because
the
what
population.
happened is, every time we get an election and the AG's office comes down, they tell us we don't have enough booths for the number of voters we have. So when I was at the clerk's conference, I saw there was a gentleman there that had these booths. So I brought the brochures home back and showed them to Gus, and he talked to Karen, found money. So we have them, and they're good size, but they're 4. They're divided in 4, and they have curtains, so they're gonna take up less room and will at least cover
Fours instead of
ourselves.
2s. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
cover ourselves.
They're like a square.
Yeah.
He delayed the purchase, he had budgeted a new laptop in this year's budget, so he delayed the purchase of that to go towards these.
Yes,
And that's why the laptop here. Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
We carried the forward 1 more year.
Because the ones they have, we're just not able to connect to. It was a big problem, Paul, connecting. They were all bringing in their own computers to do the work instead of using the town's.
And it's only going to get worse when they're dealing with all the hacking of the state database and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and then if they go to ebook, then it's another
Yeah,
step.
the
That's
ebook,
not
yeah.
happening this year.
But it's coming. It is coming.
Right, but not 2018.
Not this year, no. No, but it is coming. We'll have, instead of having our checklist, we'll have computers with the whole checklist. Each person will have the whole checklist, and that's how you check people off. But the first time that this is implemented, we're going to be running our regular checklist and an e-book. We'll have to do
Okay, how many elections do we have next year?
3. The other thing that I wanted to tell you is this vision update that's coming, it's statewide. So it's starting this coming Friday. We will only be able to do town side of the election, of the registrations, and send them to Dover or any substation. Monday is a holiday, but they're going to be working. But Tuesday, we can do nothing. We can't do anything. All the substations are closed. We can do no work at all.
Okay.
So we'll be open. We're hoping, because the last time they shut everything down on us on a Friday and said, no, it failed. It failed, so we just came into work. So we're hoping it's going to fly this time. So there's a lot of new stuff coming down the road for registrations and tax program as well.
Okay.
Yeah, on that too, the legislature this last year adopted what's called the multi-decal license plate.
Yes.
You know about that?
No.
Well, instead of having your moose plate, conservation plate, blah, 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 all different plates, there's one plate with a 3-inch square and you can put whatever decal you want.
Actually, the only one they have is Rotary Gym right now that's available.
Yeah.
And they still haven't told us. They're all supposed to be nonprofits that have these decals, but you as a resident have to buy them, and you also have to pay a fee to the state. So it's not going to be a cheap thing.
It hasn't really been advertised yet, but it's,
No, it really hasn't, because they haven't got it really implemented.
and the plates are going to look weird. And
Yes, there's a little square in the corner like this, like Paul said, about 3 is square. And it'll have a decal on it. There's only a few firefighters, I think, and I forget the others.
Yeah,
There's like 3 or 4, that's
there's
all.
3 or 4 bills coming in to authorize new ones.
Yes,
But that'll be another aspect of things.
yes, yes. So, and honestly, our volume has increased substantially. When I checked our figures in, I think it was in the end of June, our motor vehicles was up over 30,000 from last year at this time. So we're up, our money's up, and it's only going to increase with all the building, and especially over here, we got a lot of big cars, expensive cars.
It may help people as we go forward for a number of transactions, number of cars that you're even doing.
Okay, I can pull that
Because
anytime.
it isn't just dollars, it's
No.
you're processing more physical transactions. And on the tax collector side, you now run about 1,800 bills.
Yeah, a little bit more than that, a little over that. Well, I think they were 1828 last time I did them, and I think they're probably gonna be more because of Bramble Valley.
So more transactions, more transactions. All these things
Exactly.
take time.
And they do take time. And like this problem, the situation we had tonight, it's very difficult because you have to spend a lot of time researching. I spent hours researching to make sure that everything was correct in the way it should be. And it's just part of the job, but it takes time.
Okay, so I would say as we continue on here, what we don't have is an indication of the number of additional transactions.
Okay.
And also making clear to the budget committee that that laptop that you're talking about is not for fun.
No, it's not, absolutely, it's not a game.
That's not really optional.
No. And Gus is very conservative. He's been working with, came to me and he's been working with Karen.
Oh, I got the Gus conservative part, but again, you still gotta have the tool you need to actually
Well,
get it
that's the
done.
thing, that's why I suggested the booths, and I brought that because we have these things we have to put up, and people are stumbling over the chairs. This way they can walk into the booth, they have a curtain around them, in and out, and they don't take up as much room as that big long line of booths that we all deal with.
As well as the training of your workers and the training of a new moderator.
Yeah, we have, that's another situation. Dean's term, I believe, is up, and I don't know, because of the situation, whether he's going to be moving or not. So that's something that we have to think of, and I've spoken to him about it. It may not happen right away, but he's definitely, it's in his plan.
It's not gonna be an easy position to fill.
No, he's also a school moderator as well, so I believe it's this year his term is up.
And I don't think people realize what a job that is. I mean,
It's difficult. We
you
spend
watch
a
him
lot of
stand up
time.
and say a few things, but what he does behind the scenes
There's a lot of preparation.
voluminous.
We are testing ballots. We have to count all the ballots. I mean, and every year it's increasing, so.
Yeah, I can tell you as the only other person who did it for many years, ain't happening for me.
Oh, we can't enlist you.
You gotta wear a bow tie.
Yeah, you'd have to wear a bow tie, Paul.
Never have.
And no clip-ons.
No.
Okay, does
So does
anybody
anybody-
have any other questions for Mrs. Morgan?
Any thought of credit cards?
I have.
Any rental?
We have to, before we do credit cards, we have to go to a one-check system. That means we have to just get one check for both, which puts more burden on whomever you hire as the treasurer, because they have to transfer those funds every day to the state.
Because I know I never carry enough cash to register,
Yeah.
and I gotta remember to grab a check.
We don't have that many people asking. The only reason they want them is for points, but we'd have to pass on the almost 3% chip to the
Oh, yeah.
resident.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people, if they want to pay taxes, they don't want to pay an extra, $90 or $100 or $200.
I was gonna move more like when they realize you gotta register to vote for the launch it that day.
Yeah, so.
Because they broke
anyway.
down the launch and the fish crops were there.
I have the information, I keep on top of that as far as that's concerned. It's coming, it will come eventually. Right now, we've had so much other change that I just didn't want to throw one more thing into the mix.
Okay,
Anybody else?
well, thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you, gentlemen.
Public Works, road agent.
Right now, my only thing on my wish list that really costs anything is replacing one of the sheds up at the dump, which is the one that was donated to us. What was the name of that company? New England Homes.
Mhm.
It is all rotted right out, the floor's going, the roof's leaking. That would be the one up by the recycling center, in
Yeah.
between the two buildings. And that's my basic wish list for up there. It came in at 10,000.
That's under solid waste collection, maintenance, dump. It had been budgeted at $4,000, so that's an increase to $10,000.
Okay, does that shed have heat in it and all that stuff?
if, I'm gonna stick build it and have this one insulated, what's up there now is just electric heat.
Mhm.
And if I build this correctly, you're just gonna need the portable heaters, should be enough to heat that building as is.
Okay,
Right now, it's a 2x3 construction, 2 feet on center, no insulation. And there is electric baseboard in there,
okay.
but they never use it because you can't control the temperature, it's on or off.
Mhm.
So we've been using the portable heaters anyways, and it's comfortable.
You would have electricity running to it?
We have to, yes.
Okay,
There's already power there. It comes underground and comes up
okay.
underneath it.
When you're talking about that though, that's kind of a break room, right? For folks?
Well, break room / office.
Okay, and what records are kept up there?
Well, we gotta have our manuals
Yeah,
for our state inspections, all that. We have a filing cabinet with all the information on the equipment.
Okay.
Our receipts
Right,
and
it's
all,
the cash handling building.
cash handling building.
okay. So that's another reason to build it better, because you'd want it to be more secure for
Right.
cash.
We don't need any windows on either side that are there. So we're just gonna have the front window and a more secure door.
Is that gonna be okay for air exchange?
They
The
are
door's
not in
left
there.
open there.
Yeah, the door can be left open, and if we are gonna put an AC, that actually goes through a hole in the wall that we can take out and block.
Okay. All right, so that makes sense to build it better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the insulation alone should save quite a bit of electricity.
Okay. Now, you're gonna get a question at the budget committee about why are you doing this in your budget versus a warrant article?
Because it's only a $6,000 cost.
Thank you. That's the answer I want. Because we're not gonna be putting little stuff.
37 warrant articles.
Thank you. That's why we're doing it this way.
You don't wanna do last year's, all of warrant?
No, that's normal. That amount last year will still be the same. That's an average.
I'm just predicting the question you know you're gonna get.
Increase the ballot cost.
Any idea how old that building is? When that was donated?
I wanna say the 80s.
Yeah, it's been there a long
It's
time.
been there a while.
20-year-old building.
And I think one of the problems, it's basically sitting on the ground.
Yeah.
We're gonna block it up so it has airflow. And if you go on the floor, it's rotten fast.
Let's put it this way. One swipe with the backhoe and it's done.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We don't need to
Hold on,
budget
we
level
have-
costs.
We got some pretty bad drivers up there. But, I can't answer that.
No, just curious, no.
When it became a recycling center, I think that's when it was donated.
Okay, now, another thing, just predicting for our budget. It's a $10,000 item, okay? Are you looking to do this with your own force account, meaning that you're gonna do it yourself on your own time? Or are you looking to bid this out?
Half and half. I've had a contractor give me a bid, and I will finish the inside.
Oh, okay, in other words, a framing contractor?
Yes.
Okay. So I just think, I'm trying to anticipate questions from the budget committee.
Because we don't have that much time, so if I had a contractor come up, make the shell of the building, and if we do it in the, before spring hits, me and another guy that's working on a Wednesday or something can insulate, get everything done, and
Are you
go
looking
from
for a foundation, or are you gonna have a pressure treated on block?
pressure treated on block with marine plywood floors.
Okay.
That's what I had them priced out,
Okay.
so it will last a little bit longer.
Yeah, I would be absolutely prepared with that information for the budget.
Yep. I can actually, you should have a materials list for me.
Okay.
Okay,
And then, due to the fact, of course, our road paving maintenance is a little bit more because of the 5-year plan we had, trying to stay with that.
Now, one thing I would tell you for next year, when you think about how paving companies work, they get their work figured out pretty much in the spring. Okay? So if we can get this RFP out for our paving, as soon as we're authorized in March, then we get onto their normal summer schedule, and we're not gonna be the last ones done after all the help went back to college. Okay? So, if we can make our plan to get this done and put our RFPs out for paving early, then we're gonna be way ahead of the game.
All right.
Now, the Budget Committee is gonna say, which roads does that mean?
We have them written down here, right in here.
Okay, and based upon that, do you have any, based on what you're seeing out in the field, do you agree that those are the ones to do?
So far, yes, unless something major happens over the winter, which we have no control of.
Well, the something major over the winter will be Great Bay, East and West didn't get done, and Willowbrook didn't get done.
Hopefully, we have that under contract before this year ends.
Okay, then you'll need to update us on that because we're not sure of that.
Right, and that's what I've been trying to work with Paul and Underwood Engineers, because those were not separate warrant articles, they were budgeted. So I really want to be able to legally encumber those funds to carry them forward.
Exactly, because if we get into January, those projects may die till they get refunded.
Right, exactly.
He's working hard. He was in contact. Actually, Thursday afternoon, I'm meeting them with a machine to do the test pits.
The road borings.
The road test pits.
On which one?
Both of them.
Great.
So, I mean, it's moving along.
Good. Okay.
Paul, do you want to start with highways and streets? To go where you have contract labor, equipment, roads, just to explain the changes, please?
All right.
What page are you on?
Highways and streets, this doesn't give me the page number. What page
Actually, it
number
does,
is it?
46.
45 and 46?
Right. The computer doesn't, is what I'm
Oh,
trying to
okay.
tell him.
I mean, the other expense you're gonna see is under street lighting. That's gone up quite a bit. That's due to the change over the lights, which is happening next week,
Right.
which is all gonna be LEDs. And if her numbers are correct, they should pay off within 2 years.
Yeah, and I've met with Affinity today on that. This is a little bit different, but I met with Affinity today on the light changeover. They took our data inventory from Eversource, went out, reviewed them all, took pictures of them all, and matched them up with the size bulb that we were being charged for and the equivalent for the LED. I worked with them for the parking lot out here, and they're going to increase the LED wattage, so this parking lot will become substantially brighter at a substantially lower cost. So that was encouraging. They're actually going to start the work this week. We only have to pay our share of it in 2018, and Eversource is paying the other 50% of it in 2018.
Good.
Contract labor, equipment, roads, the snow plowing. We were at 390 last year. We've increased the budget back to the 420 that we had before. Last year, the budget committee cut it back to the 390. For 2017, we're already at 442,000. We're overspent, by 52,000.
And we accepted more miles of roads this year, didn't we?
And the cost of salt continues to increase. It's just and what the budget committee didn't take into effect was they looked at the worst case scenario was the year before, and it showed that we only spent 307. It showed that we only spent 307 because the significant blizzard was FEMA reimbursed. So I was able to apply and get $75,000 back for the town, which then reduces that. So I really want to kind of push that we stay at the 420 to be safe.
Our expendable trust, is our balance still intact in there?
Yep, $25,000.
That only 25.
Right, it's like, and it was put in there, it's like one storm.
Yes. So it's not a big buffer.
No.
And the maintenance of the roads, that's where we show the increase for, I think, Bayside. that's, the increase proposed is from 174,000 last year to 268,000. And that's keeping up with Paul's that 5-year plan, so,
Oh, Bay Ridge, not Bayside. Okay.
yeah.
Well, Bayside would be a warrant article.
Correct.
They'll be needed a couple meetings.
Right, it'll be called something different.
Well, right now, we're calling it Bay Ridge.
Right. Catch basin stormwater management shows at 15,000 and maintaining that. Nothing has been spent to date on that this year. The annual catch basin vacuuming hasn't been done yet. The stormwater guidelines have been released to become effective in 2018, mid-year in 2019. So that's when that account will finally start to, I mean, it looks bad that we've carried this amount every year, but it's been going to happen every year. And there's still a chance that EPA goes away and it doesn't happen anyway.
Yeah, but not much.
Right.
And even if it does, it becomes a state DES program.
Correct. But
The question I get is on culverts.
Mhm.
I noticed the last 2 years we've overexpended that.
correct.
Should we be leaving it at 2,500, or is there a good reason why we don't have to worry?
Personally, I don't think we have to worry because the overage basically ends up coming from maintenance roads or drainage. Like this year, we didn't apply anything to the drainage part. A culvert falls under catch basins, it falls under drainage, it falls under road maintenance.
And those were both emergency replacements.
Right, but because it was a culvert, that's what we placed it, but it could easily have been called drainage. And
Why just looking at being
Yeah.
overspent 2 years
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
row and just leaving it the same? I had a question on that.
right, and drainage hasn't been, been underspent as category. Right, street lighting has that increase, and then if we jump over to streets and sanitation, no, what do we have,
Where are you?
tipping and.
Oh, solid waste,
Solid waste collection and disposal.
which would be 47.
We were very fortunate with our bidding for the hauling fees. Only increased a small amount, but working with Paul, we were able to reduce the budget a small amount as well because of reducing the number of hauls.
Basically packing it tight.
Right, and a lot of that is with our electronics. But yeah, we're having less hauls now. Where else? There's no
We're
other
still
change.
averaging just one a week for recycling,
Okay.
which is every Saturday, we're right at our limit, which usually is between 11 and 12 tons when they haul that one. We're very consistent on that one. That hasn't changed. Charlie does a really good job on household of compacting that. Our numbers are very consistent on that. Everything, I switched over to hardened metal. That's saving us about 3 hauls compared to what, just a difference there. So everything's working out.
Right, recycling, we were able to continue the contract at a zero base. And that was, we had prepared the budget committee last year that you're gonna see a large increase in recycling. So we're very fortunate that they extended that zero base contract for us and the board agreed to it. Tipping fees, we were able to just increase just a slight bit based on, I think it was a 1% CPI with Covanta, so basically there's no change there.
It's likely citizens will come forward and ask you about a swap shop.
Believe it or not, when I go to these classes or our quarterly meetings, a lot of towns are getting rid of them.
Okay. Then I'm just saying, that being the case, you're gonna need to explain to citizens.
Yeah, the reason why they're getting rid of them, it starts off very good, they get a lot of volunteers. And as the volunteers weed out, more stuff gets thrown in there that's no good, that should have been paid to get rid of. And the towns are losing money.
Okay.
And that's the biggest reason and the biggest complaint when you talk to the other towns about the swap shops.
Okay.
So there's your answer.
And all of them said the exact same thing, no matter what meeting. I go to the one in Massachusetts and also in New Hampshire, and they all say the same thing about the swap shops. Within 2 years, it goes downhill. I mean, the town wants it, we can do it. But a lot of them say it's the biggest headache they got.
I just know you're gonna get the question.
And then we go to Public Works.
That's where we were.
I thought we were still in transfer station. That says Public Works budget detail, page 48. Tip and fees. Just a heads up, we had all the PM dones on a baler, 3 compactors. The 2 household trash ones didn't do well.
On the household trash ones?
Yeah.
Well, and we've been saving for
Right.
those new compactors.
So he said, he goes, they're working fine, everything around it is gone.
Okay.
So we will be needing to look in the next 1 to 2 years, the total replacement on those.
Okay.
But we have been
planning for that.
we have been
We
putting
have a capital reserve fund,
$20,000
we've been
away every
putting
year.
60,000 to replace both of them, and now I think this,
Plus, we wanted a couple new containers.
right. So we'll have the funds available.
Yeah.
And that was last Friday, those were done. And so the report should be getting sent to us in the next week.
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but yeah, good.
Well, it's all computerized, I sign a
Yeah.
tablet now and they send it to us.
But the important part for budgeting is they're not recommending replacement this year.
Not this, we're good for another year anyways.
Perfect.
But what it means is that we definitely need to put the money in capital reserve this year to be funded next year to
Right,
do
and
the
then we'll
job.
be done. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect timing.
Everything, as a safety, I mean, once we replace them, we're gonna have to do a couple different things electrically that we don't have now because of the age of those, which are the quick disconnects, which we don't have, we do inside.
Okay.
We do have an emergency shut off, but we don't have an electrical disconnect. That was one of the big things.
Okay, because that's now required for safety.
Correct.
But the point is, we have to make sure that the amount going into this capital reserve is maintained, and that would be a warrant article. And so we'll have to make sure that people understand how critical that point is going to be.
Right, because we have 2 separate capital reserve accounts right now for the transfer station.
Right.
One specifically for those balers, and then the new one that was started last year.
Exactly. But because we're now SB2, it's so much of marketing to make people understand, what would the impact be if we don't get the money for those?
Right.
Well, it goes in the budget, you pay.
Well, and I think so what we can do at deliberative session to help at that point is explain that how well this baler one has worked and that they need to be replaced next year, and the funds are already available.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that recycling one, I figure saves us, for every time that's dumped, has saved us 5 hauls.
Okay.
That's the best way to look at it. What's that?
We were talking about the savings for the equipment. I'm like, what?
But,
yeah.
Turbine Tuesday.
And everything else is, you got, the baler's only 5 years old, 6 years old now? The can baler,
No, 7.
is it that old now? And then the recyclable one is 3 years old. So, it lasts, especially now with the buildings around it. When the guy that did the PM saw the building around the can one this time, he goes, that was smart. He goes, that one, the weather really bothers.
Okay.
So that should make that one last even longer.
Okay.
Plus it's New England, cold weather hydraulics. But we did spend the extra money, we have heaters on all of our hydraulics, which helps.
Good.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Your salary, you had put in for a 5+% difference. And that's at variance from every other department so far.
Yep. I can't compare it to any other towns
Okay.
because no other town has somebody that does what I do. All different departments.
Yeah, or a full public works department.
Right. So I can't compare it. I came up, last year I gave up a big chunk of my raise for other people. And talking to a couple different pieces, Stratham had a guy just for mowing lawn starting was $54,000. So I just went up to that even number. Yeah. I didn't know what the percentage was, I just told Karen what I was looking for.
Okay, when you get to the budget committee,
Yep.
you will need that information.
How do I compare to other towns if there's
Well,
nothing?
What you just did.
All right.
Well, I went over to Stratham and I found at
Well-
least this much of the comparable position.
Well, I went to Rye, the guy that just mows the cemeteries was 60.
Okay.
Rye is an outlier, just
Right, but-
to,
It's hard when I look at
they're an
that,
outlier in most all of their
Yeah.
positions.
clerks are
these lists, I couldn't really put myself in any category.
But again, you can't go to a couple of towns. Portsmouth is, that's different.
Yeah, I want to go to Portsmouth.
Rye is different, but you can go to Stratham, you could go to Newfields, you could go to Newmarket, and get some idea of what the people who do your type of work are paid for comparable purposes.
All right.
Because you know they're gonna ask,
Yep.
especially where the percentage that you have requested is the outlier.
And it all depends on what the Board of Selectmen do
Yeah.
at that level too.
That's part of why I'm asking that.
All right, no problem. And the only piece of equipment on the maintenance mowing side is just a new backpack blower. The one we got's 8 years old, a little tired. And that's the only thing that we really need.
Okay.
Okay,
Questions?
okey dokey. Well, thank you.
All right.
Okay, general government,
Um, I followed the directive of the board as direct at the 1% for our salaries. All I ask is that for my staff people, that it just be equitable to what ends up getting decided for the rest of the town. If one flat rate is, I don't want to see the two positions that I put at the one not get that.
And as far as I'm concerned, I'm willing to listen, just as we have with every other department, to the argument that you might have that you're off as compared to other people.
Right, I did not do that because that was my directive for the board, was a
Understand.
1%, so.
No, I just want to be fair because we've given everyone else the chance to come in and justify.
I did not prepare to do that.
No, that's fine.
Because, yeah.
No, we're just in our meeting one, it's no
Yeah.
problem.
So there's not a lot of substantial changes within the budget. Places that I could reduce, I did. The biggest thing you'll see for the general government is in assessing. This is our revaluation year. So we have to do the residential and commercial reval. Those have been put out to bid. I'm trying to get to that. I have it. Those have been put out to bid. The bids have been awarded through the board. So those two costs, here we go, assessing, are included in it. So that account goes from $25,000 to $59,000. It's a substantial increase. But it's those two contracts that are required by the Department of Revenue. Audit, we were able to secure the same audit team. So there's no increase in that this year.
can I just interject something
Yep.
here? On the selectmen's stipends?
Yep.
I'd like to make a suggestion, we raise that from 15,000 to 75,000.
Do you have corresponding towns to compare?
And you can't use I don't think.
Actually,
You want to second that?
no, I have a question about that though. I would like to know why we can't, instead of a stipend, can't we have a salary of 5,000 and have income taxes taken out of it?
Sure, we're employees, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we did that at one point, didn't we?
We did.
Yes, one year it did.
And when we found out that we were able not to do it, then we changed it back, because this way the town has to match the FICA, and we put you into the workers' comp as an employee rather than an elected official.
And I think we're fine with that,
With,
doing that.
The way it is.
No. No.
Making us a salaried employee. I'll tell you, my personal reason for that is I probably spent 5 hours with TurboTax trying to fit stipend into their program, and it didn't work. I mean,
You do have to massage it some.
yeah, I would, I don't understand
You
why.
wanna be clever
Plus, I had
about
to come up, with a lot of money last year, because I had a lot of other things that happened where I got no taxes taken out. So I'd just like to see it.
And I think we'd say on that, congratulations. But yeah, we're treated by IRS as employees.
right, and what the only thing we want to do is make sure, if that's what the board wants, it's all the same for each person, so that bookkeeping isn't trying to, this one's a 1099, this one's not a
I make
1099.
it clean, I make it a motion.
There you go.
I'll second that.
But you wanna see someone screwed up taxes, you wanna see nothing yet, I just did 16s.
16s.
Yes.
Huh? I like the way it is.
So you would want it as a quarterly,
I don't care, once a year.
Once a year's fine, just take the taxes out.
Just take the tax.
one payment of 15,000 does take, the tax rate is astronomical.
Astronomical,
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Well, we don't get
No, you
that.
didn't do it individually.
Well, but
only
even,
get
I mean,
3,000.
separating out the 3,000, it'll be based on that.
That's as it should be.
Yeah, we're gonna pay it sooner or later, or get it
All
back.
right, okay, just as long as you understand, because that federal amount is bigger. Then you just get it back.
I'm for leaving it just the way it is.
As a line.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
our accountant was not happy.
You have to save it, you have to put the couple $100 in there.
No, he was not happy. He wanted to know why on the emergency management, they took taxes out.
Yeah.
Right.
And then on the other, they didn't take any taxes. He said, Mars, what's going on?
All right,
Because it's
And-
not an
okay.
elected
And
official.
frankly, we do bear the entire FICA that way.
all right. Okay, I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
It's done. I was with you.
I'm gonna try. I have so many.
You're gonna have to
jobs.
It's either pay
Couple
now
of
or pay
questions
later,
on
so.
on salary, actually two of them.
Exactly.
That's the treasurer's.
I don't know why.
Actually, I kept
So-
track of Jim for 2 weeks,
Justin, your wife will handle it.
and I think he was making about $3.50 an hour for the time he was putting in. Because I lost in 2 weeks how much time he was spending on it, and then I went by 52 weeks, and said, if he's doing this every time, he's only making about $3 an hour. Doing the books.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Deposits. I used to think it'd be fair, then the deputy really, that's,
The deputy very seldom gets used.
Okay, well, all right, then I guess the $75,000 is out the window, right? Okay. Move right along.
We tried.
I was talking about the treasurer.
Yeah. Were we there yet?
No. But that's okay. Page 11.
No, I can say that. No, I can say.
Before we just jump over to page 11. So total executive goes from 211,789 to 213,342. So the executive section has just that 1% change, very little changes. Treasurer. The next one here. Okay, treasurer starts under financial administration, accounting, and financial. So that has been a $5,000.
For at least
Payment.
10 years.
Yes.
And no, I don't know what the other treasurers are getting.
Well, no, but I mean, the treasurer, in the sense, is like the town clerk. They're responsible for financial administration of over $13 million of cash flow. It's not simple, it's not easy. in addition, you have to deal with trustees of the trust funds, cemetery trustees, planning board, ZBA, all the capital reserves, and the rest. Dealing with all the investment decisions. It's not something that's easy. And with the amount of cash that you're doing at $13 million, you are pretty much making daily deposits.
Oh, yeah, yes, they are. They're not being made daily, but they are.
They very easily could be.
They should be.
It's supposed to be by law.
You did them, gentlemen, you did it.
Yeah.
You did them every day.
I was a second.
Yeah, but we are within the legal guidelines because we don't have a bricks and mortar bank in town. We are allowed to go weekly, but they are done most of the time daily.
Are we using electronic deposits?
Most? No, we're not using electronic deposits
No? Why not?
because she has to have cooperation from the departments that are willing to do electronic.
We can fix that.
Okay. We did have a meeting to try, but that, yeah.
We
That's
still
scanning
get quite a bit.
Because it
Well-
was, she's not available. She didn't like the idea of the scanning. She told me afterwards when she thought about it, and she did not like the idea of scanning the checks in because of the way it was done.
Let us please revisit this.
I can tell you right now, where I'm working, it's all electronic.
Sure.
Everything's like, except for me.
It's just, if
There was a
you're
reason, and I can't remember what it was, Paul, that she thought.
perfectly willing to listen, but I doubt that it's going to be persuasive.
Yeah.
What do we do with the cash? She's still gonna have to go to the bank for the cash.
Oh, you're not going to get rid of them altogether, but it's sure is going to reduce the amount of work getting a deposit together.
Right, we just give her a total on the check. With cash, checks, take it to the bank, they take care of it. We don't have to list every single check,
Okay, but I'm just
and
saying,
neither does she.
but I'm just saying, if you do it electronically, the checks never leave here.
Yeah.
We have this acronym called TTWADI. You know what that stands for? That's the way we've always done it. Okay? So, that doesn't mean it was the best way.
No, but we should talk to the people that are doing it. before we make that
yeah.
decision, because it sounds really easy, but there are
It's just that the vast majority of businesses do it.
Now, is this going to be a appointed position?
Perhaps.
Upcoming,
Yes, that's-
yes.
Is that,
And I don't think it's going to be $5,000. No one's going to do it for
No,
No,
$5,000.
they're not,
They
they're
aren't.
not. There's a lot to it.
How much time did you actually figure out? As I said, I sat there and just did 2 weeks of, how long has Jim been here? And I just kept track of it for 2 weeks and I said, holy shit, he's getting $3 an hour.
I heard that.
All right, so this figure, this $5,000 is just
It's placeholder, it's not realistic.
yeah, that needs to be changed. We need to come up with,
So does the board want to advertise for the position, offer to the existing position?
it's,
Point me in a direction.
Well, the difference is that when we had the elected treasurer, it had to be a town resident. This way we can advertise.
Right.
And so I think we should. I have no problem receiving a proposal from the current person. But if we can open it up and see what competition will allow us to get for qualified people, I think that's a good thing.
at what rate of pay?
Well, I don't know what they would ask. I don't have any idea what an employed treasurer generally makes on an hourly basis.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, if we're gonna advertise for a treasurer, somebody's gonna come up, they're gonna ask us, what are you paying?
Well, we could also say, what are you bidding? You know, we're looking for a service.
Mhm. Yeah,
How many hours a week did you work usually on average, Jim?
Including your deposits, your travel.
Yes, you had travel to the banks. You were there every day, Jim.
I know it was, I don't know, 2 or 3.
2, 3 hours?
This is a 2.5.
So
Because when
realistically,
you had to,
Some-
you had to
Some were
reconcile.
more, some were more and some were less,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, tax season must be the
Tax
biggest.
season is really heavy, it's very heavy.
5, 10,
Well, you having done it, what do you think is a logical, reasonable?
plus probably 30 hours a month.
Okay, so you're saying about 7.5 or 8 hours a week?
Yeah. Because the weeks that you don't have reconciliation, you're probably an hour a day. Come in,
Well, it's an hour a day just to drive up to the bank and back.
Yeah, it's 20 minutes, one
yeah,
way,
like 20 minutes.
one way.
There's somewhere between 40 and 50 hours a month.
Oh, Liz told me it only takes her 10.
But you gotta go, he's gotta go to two, they gotta go to two
Oh, this
banks.
would be doing 2 banks.
Two banks.
I don't know if they're still going up to Exeter to the,
No, Portsmouth,
oh,
the Provident in,
well, that's real easy traffic, especially
Well,
at 4 o'clock.
it's because the person is on her way to work, so she
In
just drops
Portsmouth.
off the bag. So, picks it up later. Yeah, there is downtown.
So how many hours a week do you think?
I would say an hour a day when it's just the deposit, and then allowing an extra 5 hours a month for reconciliation problems one day that takes extra 15 minutes.
You're underestimating, Karen.
Yeah, I
Okay.
do too.
Jim does too.
But, all right,
So
say 10 hours a week.
10 hours a week?
And then in the summertime, when you're closed one day,
Doesn't matter, because you have other, you got the building department, you've got the police department.
yeah, they
there's
do
other-
this on Fridays,
Yeah,
right?
they do this stuff on
Fridays, yeah.
Year round?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
because they don't bring in enough to do a daily deposit, so they do weekly deposits on Friday mornings.
$10,000 a year?
I would do it as an hourly rate.
I would do it, yeah.
It's not a salaried exempt position, so it would be an hourly
$15.
rate.
That'd be 20,
How much?
20 bucks a
It's probably about 19 bucks an hour to get somebody qualified to even ask.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be giving it to us for that.
I'm gonna say $20 an hour?
No. Well, I would only object to that only because that exceeds the wage that our current staff gets.
Yes. I agree, and they'll be
That's-
more in the camp.
Well, the only, so what are you gonna do? If you go $15 an hour, you're $7,800 a year?
I just would not want that wage to be higher.
All right,
than
let me
what
do
he's
this, all
getting.
right? All right, let me do this,
No.
all right? Let's think about it, bring it up at the next meeting, okay? Let's just chew on it, think about it, bring it up the next
Put
meeting.
it in the budget.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. All right?
You're right, by next
Okay.
meeting. And,
Yeah,
and
I can have it done.
some calculation as to what people might be willing to do.
Right.
Okay?
I mean, this is an employee now. So what's important is just we maintain internal control.
Right. Do you want the current treasurer asked to submit a proposal before you advertise?
All right,
Or just
we have
go
a-
forward with it?
We have to establish a job description, I think.
Yeah, and that's pretty
Because-
statutory, so that's easy to pull together.
That is statutory?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Well,
Even if they're appointed?
we ought to nail down whether or not she's gonna go to both banks.
Right,
That's right.
I mean,
right.
right now she
Yeah.
says she's not.
Right.
Well, because by the statute, it says town deposits only, and she came in midstream and told us, I'm not doing the state deposits anymore. So I said, okay.
So that's what I'm saying, we need a description of the job that's gonna be done. If we're gonna require her to make the state deposits, her or him.
Yeah, but whomever it is.
To me, it doesn't make sense to take a higher compensated employee and have them going up.
We go every day. Either Amy or me. Sometimes Liz, once in a great while Liz does it, but mostly us.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Next.
Yeah, so I went over that change in the assessing tax billing, that's in that same where treasurer it is. So the audit stayed the same, assessing tax billing has the two revals. Let's see. There's no change in the mapping or the computer programs. However, Vision, the assessing Vision, now it's going to be confusing because we'll have two programs called Vision. The motor vehicle program will be Vision, and our assessing software is Vision. The version of Vision that we have is being upgraded for assessing, but DRA does not recommend you do a software upgrade the same year you have a revaluation because it can change things by dollars and just small amounts that it'd be hard to reconcile. So we won't be upgrading Vision, the assessing software, until 2019. Legal, I actually reduced. I proposed a reduction because I was looking to try and get general government at the 2% overall guideline that we've been given. And we have the warrant article that's non-lapsing for general legal for the Coakley matters. So I proposed a reduction from 25,000 to 20,000 for general legal, but leaving planning and zoning legal alone. We have no lawsuits other than the Fairpoint abatement case that's been ongoing, that's being handled by Donahue, Tucker, and Schindler. Personnel administration, there'll be significant changes that will happen in that once the wages are decided on. This is based on the wages that, as proposed by the various departments for Social Security, Medicare, New Hampshire retirement. This is the full year of the increase. The increase took place, it began on July 1st. So 2018 will show the full year of the increase. I have budgeted the health, dental, and disability insurance with an anticipated 5% increase, which was similar to last year. Those rates, the public hearings are being held this week and next week. So we should be hearing some rate information fairly soon from Health Trust. The liability insurance is already, that rate is the solid one. And you'll see longevity bonus has a decrease from 11,250 this year, last year, to next year is 7,500, losing 2 of our long-term employees. The insurance coverage does include an additional, well, it's a replacement of a family plan for the, if that's the +1 on the, for the clerical, the police department, should that go full-time. Planning Zoning Board requested a flat budget.
Yeah, I would tell you there are no proposals before the planning board right now at all.
Okay.
No building,
It's been, planning and zoning both have been pretty quiet.
very quiet. If it wasn't for those last 3 small site reviews, we wouldn't have, it would have been 4 months in a row with no actual
work
review.
Under town office building, we pretty much have maintained the building maintenance account. We had increased it substantially last year, the 29,000. Paul and I went over needs and got that down to 27,325 with proposals for next year on replacing the trim on the town office building. Again, the HVAC maintenance, the emergency lights, and the gas heating system for the town office. That was delayed through the propane for Northern Utilities, and then any changing of the town office heating ventilation got postponed from this year because the fire department system went down, so we used the town funds to replace the fire department system. So that's the change on there. There's no change on police and power.
And then in this, we're going to be getting some information on recommended changes to the fire department section. And is the proposal to handle that by warrant article?
That's the proposal at this point, because just the initial costs of changing the siding that Paul had gotten last year was astronomical. We were talking $25,000 to $27,000.
Okay. And
Steel work is expensive.
sure, do we have any ballpark on these other things that have been recommended?
I'm waiting for the bid that we put out for the roof, not a bid, but a quote.
Yeah.
Me and Chip talked about it tonight. There's a couple different ways to go. They're having one thing Chip wanted to make sure was, it's the metal up top is safe before we do anything to the roof.
Sure.
So the question is, it's so flat and it has foam underneath it with a membrane on top of it. The guy that came down to look at it was stumped to give me a price on what to do with it. What they would like to do is actually build it higher on one end and put more of a slope on it.
Leave what's there and just build a new roof.
Basically putting a roof over that. The question is it structurally sound to do that?
Okay.
So we're kind of caught in the middle here on that.
But we're thinking, what, 25,000, 30,000 anyway?
The guy's supposed to call me tomorrow morning to try to set up a date to come down and look at it.
And let you have the sticker shock then, okay.
Yes.
All right.
By next meeting, hopefully I have an actual figure, and he's gonna make two different ways to do it.
Okay. Are we getting to the point where it's cheaper to tear it down and start over?
No.
No, not at all.
That's a salvageable building.
If those beams are sturdy enough, there's no sense
Okay,
of even going that route.
but if they aren't, then we talk about it again.
I would say yes.
Probably what we're gonna be at is a structural engineer to take a look at the drawings to see if because they were not designed by an engineer.
Why do I believe that?
And I don't think they were ever reviewed by an engineer, so that would be something we probably should check with Underwood, see what they would charge to do something like that.
Do you want me to do that, Paul?
Actually, I'll be talking to him tomorrow.
All right.
And
See what it'll
And the
cost.
only reason
come down, take a
I'm
look at
spending
it.
any time on it right now is that my guess would be waiting even one more year is probably a bad idea.
I think the roof wise, yeah. It may go the way we do the roof and then do the siding every year.
Yes. Okay.
Just depending on costs.
I mean, the roof to me is more important than the siding.
Fine.
It looks like a moonscape up there.
When that guy walked up on the roof to take measurements, he couldn't figure out what was even done up there.
Okay.
He goes, "What am I walking on?"
Right.
Why am I walking on this? Yes.
I may have plans for that building.
Okay. So my point is, this is not something that we can delay.
Cemeteries had no change, same as trustee of the trust fund, no change. Property liability insurance, it's an increase from 37,065 to 39,075. We had a rate guarantee of no more than 5% or no more than 9% with Primex, and the rate was 5.42. Same thing with workers' comp. We had a rate guarantee of no more than a 9% increase, and it is at 6.6%.
Okay. So does anybody have any further questions about general government?
The only thing I have is that I think it's still important that we hear from our computer vendor so we understand what our computer systems are.
Yep, he is coming on the 16th.
On the 16th?
I believe it's the 16th. He's confirmed on one of the meetings. It might be the second
Not
meeting.
September.
Not over. I know, so it's 16th. Okay. So it's
But
2
he's
weeks.
confirmed.
That's fine. So I just think that's important so we understand the computer system and make sure we budget that accurately.
Okay.
And then if you want to jump over to Health and Human Services, that's all general government. If there aren't any other questions, I'm sorry. So for Health and Human Services, mosquito control is maintaining their same price for us again. They haven't gone up in several years. That's municipal pest management. And that's continuing with the louder siding program that we do. A couple of the health agencies did request increases. Most requested level funding. Richie McFarland's Children's Center is one of the increases requested from $2,100 to $3,900.
Oh, wait, has there been an increase in the number of Greenville residents that are taking advantage of that?
Let's see how many this time. 13 families were served in 2017. Meals on Wheels bases it on the number of meals, and their request is going from $1,021 to $1,185. And they, where's this number? Meals on Wheels, they serve an average of 18 residents in 2017, between 1,000 and 1,300 meals.
Going back to Richie McFarland, since that's a 33% increase.
Yep.
How many people did they serve in 2016?
I would have to look at my 2016 budget, I'm sorry. I take the template and I just write over the number. Seacoast Family Promise is the one that was a warrant article last year, so that rolls right into the budget. And their request was the same. When we get into welfare, I did not put any increase in for welfare. We will overspend, I think, rent is getting close to being overspent this year. But utilities are probably tapped off because fuel assistance has kicked in at this point. And property tax deferral is 25,000, stay the same, it's a fine number. And that's it for Health and Human Services, welfare. And then Culture and Recreation, I worked with the Rec Department and Paul to pull these together. There is an increase in the part-time labor. Paul requested the same number of hours, but an increase in pay. Going from $12 an hour to $15 an hour, which is 25%. Yeah. Contracted services was increased just to $3,000. That's biospray things, that rates have just gone up. Equipment permanent is where we've generally budgeted $10,000 or so for permanent equipment for the department. The request this year is for fencing at
Malone?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I just have to look between the two things. But yeah, it was for fencing requirements that they requested. The rental equipment stayed the same, that's just the porta potties. Groundskeeping has an increase from $3,700 to $45,000. And what did we talk about there? Oh, that was again the biospray, the poison ivy control, adding into that, and additional infield mix.
How are the buildings looking on the recreation field? Are they holding up pretty well?
No,
No.
no, they're all in disrepair. We need an assessment.
Actually, I asked Jim to go out and look at the one behind the backstop.
Yep.
I had a contractor go out there, he didn't like the looks of it. I'm
Which
asking,
one?
yeah,
The concrete one.
the concrete.
The block building.
Yeah, the block one.
Right.
I'm waiting for Jim to get back to me on what he's gonna say on that.
When you say don't like the looks of, does that mean condemn, won't touch?
Pretty close.
Yeah, pretty much. One side of it is actually gone, like, it looks like the ground washed out underneath it.
Yeah.
And it collapsed on one side, and the bricks are actually separated, the blocks.
Yeah, there's great stuff is used for the mortar in between the blocks.
Yeah.
It's bad.
And what the contractor I took out there looked at it and just said, tear it down, without hesitation, because he doesn't think it had any footings.
Probably didn't.
Well, we need to deal with
Is that building necessary if we were able to move the electrical for the lights and the scoreboard?
No, that building's necessary.
Oh, it is, okay.
Right. Because of that, but that could be rerouted. I mean, you don't need that.
Right, that's what I'm.
That would be very expensive.
You combine two buildings into one or whatnot, I mean.
Yeah, get rid of the other building, just put one big building behind it.
But that other building's in no great shape either. I mean, that's what.
I think that was
Woodpeckers
another,
and
I would have a feeling that building was a donated one.
That was
Right.
that was donated from New England Homes.
I remember when that came in.
It's gonna be in the same.
We wondered when it came in, when it was gonna fall down.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was bad.
Roughly the year that came in?
Oh,
I bet it was the same year as the other one. I think Mr. Krasko arranged for those two donations.
yeah, I think that's right.
That building's been in that long?
Yeah,
No.
it's over 10 years.
Oh, easy.
I have no
It was here
idea.
long before I got here.
But last time I went out and looked at them, it just looked
They were
like.
bad when I was playing.
I mean, we need to,
But, no, Chester on that one, I am waiting to get back from Jim.
Yeah, I'd like to get an assessment on all of them for,
I can take him around to
yeah,
the other
I
ones.
spoke to them about it as well.
Because I know you've had concerns at Castle too.
Yeah, there's a leaky roof at Caswell.
I have,
Did you go up in there?
no, but I had I got bids on the roofs.
Have you been upstairs to see the damage?
No,
No. Okay.
but
Could you-
Ron Myers went down, surveyed it,
Yeah,
and gave bids on the roof.
all right. I was just looking for your opinion.
Let's see, that was a second story scab,
Which I actually think that Ron Myers built.
I believe over 20 years ago. I'm just trying to think this.
Right, when did you look out the window and watch them at a second
Yeah,
floor?
but
You live
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's why you live right near there, Paul.
My son was in Little League and he's now 31. So, so it's 20 years ago at least.
all right, so we need to address those.
Yeah.
Those issues too. Okay.
And so then we go on to interest and bond payments. The interest decreases just through the amortization schedule. So it gives an overall budget increase of 6.13%, which equals $254,389.
And what's our total principal on debt?
$680 now. We started at 800, 720, maybe 640.
Okay, so that's important from the library's perspective because we have plenty of bonding capacity.
Oh, yeah.
No question there. But that's another thing that bond counsel could tell us is an estimate of tax impact if that bond were to pass.
Right, and I've already asked the bond bank to do an amortization schedule for a ballpark for me.
Okay. Okay,
That
well,
sheet just shows the department, the grand totals. The default budget is basically done. I can't really finish the totals for the default to know what the difference is between the requests until the board finishes that step. Then we'll know what the difference between the Board of Selectmen's budget and the default budget is. Let's see what I got in here. Yeah, that just shows the retirement rates. And that's the hard part, is the police department's retirement is 29.43%.
Mhm.
Wow, that's high.
That's really high.
And so if we take a look at this, our projected warrant articles based on what we talked about tonight, we know we need a warrant article to deal with the fire department building in some amount.
Yes.
Depending on what you learn from these rec buildings, I don't know what that number is going to be. That may be another potential warrant article. What else did we talk about for potential warrant articles?
Video cameras,
Are they gonna be expensive enough to?
don't know. Haven't seen the report yet.
Okay, so maybe.
Maybe, maybe not, you know.
Yeah, I'm thinking probably somewhere in the maintenance budget, but I don't know.
Yeah, the last I had is I was asking the two chiefs to work together, reviewing all the documents that we have and making a recommendation. I haven't heard back from the two chiefs.
Yeah, I was also looking to get their recommendation if they felt there should be more than those.
Correct.
that we had.
Right, that's what I asked them to look at.
And then we also know we have some real potential in the fire department for a need and increased resource. Okay. So,
Okay,
good first run. We identified a bunch of stuff. It's not getting any cheaper.
alrighty, all right, I heard the minutes of the last meeting, regarding the Harley rake bids. I can put my 2 cents worth in. I've been in the construction supply business for over 30 years, and, you know, there's no question having the proper tools, you know, expedites jobs and saves money. But that being said, I also believe that in order to justify the purchase of a tool of any cost, it should have a short-term payback. Like the compactors that we got in. They paid themselves off, what, in 3 years, I think?
If that.
Yeah. So I asked the maintenance supervisor what the cost of the Harley rake is installed. He said $10,000. The cost to rent a tool.
10.5.
10.5, okay. I'm rounding things
Okay.
off, all right? The cost to rent the tool would be $400 per day. His estimate on how many days per year he would use the tool. Let's just say he only used it 7 days out of the year. You've got $400 times 7 days is $2,800. Times 5 years is $14,000. So this is a short-term payback, in my opinion, and this thing will pay itself off in less than 5 years.
I've got a point of order though.
Huh?
Got a little point of order. This actually is rec budgeted money, so we don't decide that, they do.
Oh, no,
No, the Board of Selectmen decided it's a bottom line budget. Sorry.
Yeah, on that point. It's our decision to make.
Okay. Actually, to rent the Harley rake, it's $125 a day. If you get it with a machine, it is about $400.
Right. The two places I went to today to get prices, it would not go on my machine. The town, I should say the town's machine. Because, Right.
And when you come up with a 7-day figure, we sat down and figured about
I
8
came up
hours.
with that figure. I'm just taking 7 days, maybe more than
I figured about 8 hours a day. 8 hours he'd be done with what he's told us so far. Because you can't grade the road with a 72-inch, not the shoulders, not in Ringland.
Well, I'm asking him, how many days out of a year do you think?
I really don't know. I can't answer that. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
to be honest.
With what we went over in the last meeting, 2 days a year, max. I mean, I've done it, I've rented the machines, I've done it. That machine is really meant to go on a tracked machine, not a wheeled machine, because wheeled machines bounce. It's just not, if I rent, they say this, the city of Portsmouth doesn't own them, because they don't need them. And if they ever need one, they rent it. It's not the right machine. And even for 7 days a year, how long are you gonna have this machine? How long are you gonna have the skid steer? You gonna have it 4 more years?
No,
You never know.
that thing should be around longer than me.
Well, if it's maintained, I guess.
That thing's in great shape.
If it's maintained, I suppose, but I just don't see it. It's the wrong machine. They don't belong in an infield. You don't try to
Make a suggestion on what we should get.
I think you should rent one and try it out in the spring, because we're gonna buy it. You already said there's no work for it, you already said there's no work for it this season.
Okay, now,
We're gonna buy it and put it in the barn.
Guys, slow down.
Okay, a
Can I
track
finish? Can I
machine,
finish?
both of these that I looked at were on wheeled vehicles.
All right, I
because
talked
they
to
were
Evan, I
PTO.
talked to Evan in Tri-Rental.
That's who I went
He's
to.
a friend. His is on a track machine, it's $445 a day, machine and Harley rig.
You told me wheeled PTO.
Track machine.
That's where I went to today.
I'll run it.
All right.
I'll run it. I mean, it's a fact.
Is he down in Hampton, your buddy?
No.
Okay,
That's the
you
one
went
I
to
went
Portsmouth, you get different machines in different locations.
All right, well, where I'm coming from is, again, a piece of equipment like that, if it can pay for itself in the short term, I would be up for purchasing it. If it goes into a long term, then as far as I'm concerned, you should be renting it. So we need to know, if you have no idea what you can, how many days or
I really
hours you
can't
use
answer
it,
that.
then I would tend to go with, well, let's try it out, let's rent it, and let's find out how many,
That's all I'm
how many days we're gonna use it and.
What would you suggest for a piece of equipment for what we need here?
What do you wanna do?
Well, we got roads,
How much roads?
the one going to Maloney,
Yeah.
my parking lot.
Is that parking lot getting paved? The belt, is there a belt getting paved?
No, just
Just the
in
belt?
front, no, on both sides where the buses park, and just a little skirt in front, that's it, not the parking lot.
Okay.
And then I got,
You can't back drive that with your bucket? Just
I-
good enough?
it just doesn't do it.
Okay.
Those
I mean-
buses have torn that up.
What about a box
It's just-
grader? That way it's small enough you can use it on the field if they get that bad. You can try one, I know who has one.
I heard he's a real jerk though.
Yeah.
He is. But if you wanted to try it, you could.
I'll pick it up. Will that fit on my machine or no?
It's a
Fellas.
3-point
Fellas,
hitch.
It's 20 minutes to 10,
Then
guys,
you just,
please.
Right, all right.
you
Let's
just
try one and find out and put it on the table until we do it till the spring. I mean, that's
Yeah,
my
well,
suggestion.
let's, all right.
Let's rent one in the spring and take it from there. Leave the money in the bank.
Oh, that wasn't a warrant article, was it?
No.
Yeah.
All right, never mind.
So try it out this spring, see how it works out, keep track of the number of hours you use and everything else, and if we can justify, a short-term payback, then I'd be up for purchasing. But, let's find out, is there a couple of question marks that are put in front of us, let's answer them,
All
okay?
right.
More than fair, thank you.
Everybody agree with that?
Fine with that.
Okay, good. Great. Got that out of the way. Copley update?
I met last week with Kirby Webster, who is the technical advisor hired by the EPA. She works for an engineering company, SKIA Inc., S-K-I-A. Her first project is going to be helping design a questionnaire that will be put onto our website, such as like a poll type thing that people can just click and check off areas where they think for Copley, whether they need more information on certain remediation, particular questions they have that aren't being answered. And she's working with the EPA to set up another meeting at the Bethany Church. It's time for another community meeting, which will be scheduled for late October.
Okay.
And I've included in your packet the latest update, the September 26th update from the EPA on testing and the new signage that's up.
Okay. Paul, anything on your?
Well, you'd also distributed an email from Brian Getz.
That's right.
And the only thing I would tell you, since I'm a member of that committee, and we don't have an agenda, I think he was a little optimistic in what the group will actually consider on Thursday. They've had one meeting so far, and there was no indication that there was going to be any project-based decisions made anytime quickly.
Wow.
So I just think he was a little optimistic at the speed at which this might move.
Okay. And he is going to have the numbers available for the engineering for the meeting. He's working with Underwood right now.
I just want to put this in perspective too. It's a fund of $400 million, which is a lot of money, against a need of $2.5 billion. And Senator Morse expects the fund to grow from $400 million to $1 billion. Okay? So if we look at it too, there's three types of projects they're considering. One is existing water systems that are broken and need to be fixed. Another is the system that doesn't exist and ought to be built. And the third one is wellhead protection. Well, the system that's broken that needs to be fixed has revenue, called ratepayers. The system that doesn't exist doesn't have any revenue because they have no ratepayers. Wellheads don't have any ratepayers. So I don't know how you grow something to $1 billion when 2 out of the 3 projects that you're doing have no revenue. But that's just me.
Well, good question. What was his response to that?
You don't think I asked him directly?
We want to keep him happy so we get the 17 million.
But that's just where we are.
Yeah.
It won't act, I'd love it to act as quickly as Brian thinks, but it's not gonna.
Okay. All right, thank you. Longevity policy.
Okay, this is the second go-around now to try to clarify the current policy that's in place. That right now has been given to all full-time employees and regularly scheduled part-time employees. So I've tried to clear up more of what regularly scheduled means for the part-time. Adding in to qualified part-time employees must be scheduled to work a minimum of 15 hours per week on a year-round basis. So that clarifies that it's not the seasonal employees or the on-call picking up one shift a month or doing that. And I set it at 15 hours per week so that we didn't exclude the transfer station people that are regularly scheduled to work 18 hours per week, Wednesdays and Saturdays. And then I also provided, based on the discussion of the board, different rates for part-time employees. So I reduced those somewhat, not in half, because a part-time employee that gets it right now is at 34 hours rather than 40 hours. And I did put in a request for the exemption that part-time employees that currently receive longevity as of December 1st of 16 continued on that full-time schedule, so that the one employee affected wouldn't have hers reduced.
Why do part-time employees get less than full-time employees?
Because that was a request from the board to see a different option for part-time employees.
Okay, because they work 10 years, they're here 10.
I agree with you, but that was brought up, that should a part-time employee that only works 15 hours a week get the same amount as a full-time employee? Longevity is to encourage people to stay. Once we have them trained, they have the knowledge and the experience. That is just to reward them for staying for at least 10 years and to encourage them to continue staying.
Okay. In my way of thinking, they should both get the same. That's just my way of thinking. You're not talking that much money. Somebody works 10 years, that impetus is there for them to keep on the job. That's just where I'm coming from. If it was up to me, I'd make the part-time the same as the full-time. That's just my input.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be the contrarian. I hate the whole policy. So.
Okay. Well, the input until we change it.
It's gotta stay.
This is not the hill to die on.
Longevity's got a lifespan, not a long lifespan anyway. People don't stay at places 10, 20 years anymore, so.
But
So, that being said, can I make a motion on that?
Sure.
I make a motion that we, longevity pay is distributed equally between part-time and full-time employees.
So the motion would be to move to approve the amended longevity policy to clarify that to be eligible, part-time employees must be scheduled a minimum of 15 hours per week on a year-round basis, period.
Yeah.
Rather than amended for part-time.
Right.
Okay.
The other double edge of that sword, if we want to do something for the 5 years, and it may help next door.
Yeah,
They're not
totally
currently
admit. I know.
eligible. They're not regularly scheduled.
They're not regularly scheduled.
They pick their own shifts, they don't have to.
And
work
part-time
for
police
weeks.
officers are not regularly scheduled.
Correct. So it won't help next door yet, until
Yeah.
they're regularly scheduled.
Wait till the report comes back, we'll see.
Right.
All right, so I made a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Keep them guessing.
All you gotta do is look at Jim's face, he's like,
I have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
and Chip is interested.
I said,
What did you say?
Aye. Okay.
Fair enough.
See, we agree to disagree, we move on. We have a vote, we move on.
Fair enough.
I like it.
Of course, it was your favor. You're the one who made the motion.
All right,
How many people are gonna?
so do we need something else for this?
Nope.
No, we're all set. Okay, what else do we have here? Review of town administrators bi-weekly.
No other old business.
Oh, other old business. Thank you.
All right.
My eyes are getting foggy here. We're not usually this late.
Hey, Jim, you were fast the last time we met.
All right, I know you have some other old business.
I do.
You're on.
All right, this is just a brief summary. We had a 300th anniversary meeting last week,
Mhm.
and we had, I guess there were 4 of us here.
Yep.
We bandied about some ideas of things, and I think we had some good constructive ideas that will require more work. But anyway, we met and we had a positive meeting. And we're meeting again on November 6th. It's on the calendar.
I'd like to just make a suggestion. I know I'm not part of that, but you know those lamp posts out there that have the poles sticking up with the banners? Are you thinking of doing something?
Yes, we are. That was one of the first things we discussed.
Now, are these banners gonna be something we can use all the time, or is it just gonna say 300th anniversary?
Well, we don't know yet.
Okay,
We haven't got to that part.
all right, okay. I would suggest something we could use all the time, just my 2 cents worth.
And in the budget review, which I didn't point out under patriotic purposes, Mr. Olson did ask me to put in a line item for the 300 of $3,000.
I did get a price on those, more than $3,000,
Just for the banners?
yes. If you're gonna get good ones, because they're gonna be out in the weather, you're probably talking somewhere around 10. Now, I just went down, across the street here.
Well, all right.
How many others?
We're meeting, it's not that we've only got,
Yeah,
we're going to have the person who was in charge of Stratham's thing come to speak to us.
Perfect.
And we'll get a little better idea on cost of banners.
good for you. Good, excellent. All right, moving right along.
Karen, is that the meeting with the employees yet?
With all of the employees? No, just 2 of them.
Is that gonna come up for our next meeting?
For the next meeting, we'll see. I'm not sure.
I wanna get them all on the same wavelength.
Okay.
Plus, they gotta justify what they want for wages.
All right, now can we get to the town administrator's bi-weekly report?
I don't know, can we?
Anybody have any questions? None, okay. Okay, approval of Target extended Black Friday hours.
This is their annual request to be open for extended hours on the 23rd and 24th, Thanksgiving and the day after. They work with the police department for coverage during those extra hours. There's always a police officer on duty.
Move we approve the request of Target for extended hours on Black Friday.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, we're starting to move right along here now. Okay, next item is the tax rate overlay. And when did we say the deadline for this was?
The absolute drop dead deadline would be at the next meeting.
Okay.
Um,
Because the reason I say this, I think it's premature to set a rate at this particular time. There are too many unknowns as far as I'm concerned, anyway. I'd like to see more information as far as the fire department building goes, as far as
I was
the,
gonna say, for example, let's suppose the fire department came back at $90,000. We would perhaps fund it out of unfunded, unreserved fund balance, instead of having, we'd have a warrant article that would fund it that way, and still be able to keep the tax rate the way it is.
Right. And whatever the board decides is fine with me. I do recommend that we get, if it's at the next meeting, it needs to be, it can't be postponed or we'll have late tax bills. Once the tax rate, once the board makes the use of fund balance decision, then I get that to DRA, and it takes about a week for the DRA to confirm and make the rate official. Tax bills can take, I talked with the tax collector tonight, because this is the first I've heard of a delay, and she can get them done in like 7 days. It's just not a process I like to rush. And they have to be out by law for November 1st to have our tax bills due December 1st.
Right.
So it is tight. Our fund balance right now is at 1.8 million. Our recommended is at 1.3. We got increased revenues today. I did the revenues with DRA this today. So our rooms and meals went up about 2,000. The highway safety block grant went up about 15,000. So for a flat rate now, using 160,000 of the fund balance, which would still leave 1.709, would give us a flat tax rate. If we used 180,000, it would give us a 1662 tax rate, which would be a 3 cent, a 1663, which would be a 2 cent decrease. And leave 1.7 million for any other purposes.
Okay, just philosophically. Okay. We know in the upcoming year, we're going to have a consideration of a bond issue, which is going to be a tax increase if it passes. We know we have challenges with the fire department. We know we have challenges with the fire department building. Okay, and so what I don't want to do is get us into a trap where we're going to get a blip in a tax rate if the people decide that they want all of those things to happen. So at best, I'd like to keep our tax rate the same. I sure don't want to have it go down, because if they go for these things next year, we could get a blip of $1 or $1.50.
Right. If we use no fund balance and go ahead and set the tax rate, we would be at 1687, which would be a 22 cent increase.
Yeah. And I perfectly agree with you that use of some fund balance to buy taxes down is appropriate. But I think I'd like to wait, only because I'd like to hear about the fire department. If we could cover that with unfunded balance, unreserved fund balance, and fix the building that we know we have to fix, then I'd be happy to do that and say to the people we're fixing it with what we've already collected. You know, and then let them consider some of these other particular projects.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. The delay is scary.
Okay. Well,
But that's a risk. I mean, I can pull all staff together. And I told Marge we could be all hands on deck, stuffing envelopes and stamping and.
you can also schedule us back for a meeting in between. You know, if we're going to get more information here,
We don't have, yeah, no, there isn't a meeting in between, because we won't have a lot of that stuff until the 16th. Or he's hoping to have the report by the end of the month from MRI, but we can't wait till the end of the month.
I concur with that. Okay. I don't want to make it so that you can't get your bills out, but I don't want to create a blip of a tax rate.
Yep, that's fine.
I just think we'll have more information at that particular time. And, I mean, I hate to put the crunch on it myself, but
Right.
I agree with that, you know, I just need a little bit more
Right. Unless the board already wants to know that they want a flat rate, or they want a 5-cent decrease,
Well,
then that could be done.
what do you folks think?
No decrease,
Okay.
No what?
no decrease, I would keep it the same. I wouldn't lower it.
You guys?
I would say I could live with it staying the same. I certainly wouldn't want to see it go up with all that construction out in Bramba, because people would be up in arms.
Yeah. I understand. I just don't want to be up in arms by $1 or $1.50
Right.
next year if the people vote for everything.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Which may or may not happen, I don't know.
So what do you say, pump it up?
Well, to me, if we came in flat, then we'd say we've administered ourselves flat because we have things we know we have to do. We know we have to work on this building. We know we have to work on the fire department. And so we're using your money for purposes you already told us, which is to keep your equipment in good shape, you know, your assets in good shape. And they already told us last year, we know you've got a fire department problem.
Right, because if that's the philosophical agreement of the board is a flat rate, we can still then move forward. And the amount of fund balance that's used would be probably 160 or 161, leaving plenty.
Yeah.
And then not cause a rush. Mistakes happen when we're trying to, the warrant wouldn't be able to get signed until that decision, so we wouldn't be signing the warrant. We'd have to have a special meeting to sign the warrant in that in-between, which would probably be like the 16 and 7, the 23rd. It's just that mistakes happen when you're rushing.
Or do we need a motion?
Not if we delay. If we delay, we don't need any motion. If we want a flat rate, we can do that.
Chip, what do you think?
I think we're gonna have a hell of a bump come spring if the library goes through at $3 million.
Yeah.
Well,
I just don't want a big variation if that happens.
Right.
So I
residents will
I don't know who
understand
likes to hear the word increase, but I almost think you gotta increase it a little bit
this year.
this year. Not go all wild.
If we do nothing, it increases to 1687
From what?
from 1665.
To 1687?
So 22 cents.
So what are your thoughts?
I still would like to see it flat.
You want to see it flat?
Yeah.
Okay. Chip?
I think we're gonna have to spend some money this coming year, fix a lot of stuff. I hate to see prices go up, but we're gonna have to do it sooner or later. We should have done it sooner, now we gotta do it later.
Paul, what are your thoughts?
Well, I certainly wouldn't want a tax decrease. I could live with flat or a relatively modest increase like a dime. Just to let people know that we're trying to keep investing in their own infrastructure.
Mhm. I would tend to agree, I agree with a slight increase. I always have, agreed to that, but, so I go with a slight increase, and I don't mind a dime or, I wouldn't go above that.
I just, I feel that with Bramba Valley going online, that's a lot of revenue coming in, and people are gonna be upset that their taxes are going up anything with all that revenue coming in.
Yeah.
How much revenue would a dime bring in extra?
We can go to McDonald's and get that Big Mac, $6.
If we used 100,000, it would give it a 1674 rate from 1665, so that's like 9 cents. And flat.
Scares me the most is the infrastructure, roads. I mean, we are playing catch up with these roads. And they, there's a lot of money to be spent here. That's the majority of the roads.
Like everything, there's a lot of money to be spent everywhere.
Yeah, but
We got money coming in.
what, the tax rate is set in arrears, and a lot of people don't understand that, so I don't think it would be a huge kickback, but because it's set in arrears, it's on what they approved at last year's town meeting, not what they're approving this year's town meeting.
Right.
So if we're saying we're gonna do this fire station, well, that's next year, why are we paying for it this year? 155.
And I understand what you're saying too, I have to believe you. Because I have heard people say, you know, should bring our tax rate down. Which I think is.
Right, if we used 160, the tax rate would be the same, 1665, and the amount retained in fund balance would be 1.729.
Which gives us about $430,000.
Right. 430 to 530. I recommend it as 1.3. 1.4 is really nice. Our goal was to get it to $1 million, and we've done that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we're in very good, solid financial shape.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fine. And so we do have money to put, you know, even regardless of what we do here within these recommendations, we have some money to put towards projects that we have to do.
Correct. If we do nothing, then we have like the 20-cent spike up, and then if we do all next year's projects out of that fund, then we could see a decrease.
What is the school doing?
The school kicked back, they gave back $276,000.
And that went to our unreserved fund balance.
No,
No?
no, that offset the school appropriation,
Oh, sorry, okay.
because this is the first year they've given something back the way it works, so they're.
No
their
wonder,
net
no wonder I didn't know, it never happened before.
Yeah, no, their net appropriation went down.
Well, I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Keep the tax rate flat this year.
Which would be to use
I have a motion, do I have a
160,000.
second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of keeping the tax rate flat? Say aye. Okay,
I can live with that, I can live with that.
good. All right, Chip? Okay,
Excellent.
flat it is.
Thank you.
Good.
Staff will appreciate not having to rush with that last minute, trying to, 6 days to turn around a tax bill.
I think everybody has good news out of that decision.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 days is just, oh,
Okay. All right,
But I'm also glad we didn't have the discussion till a lot of what we learned tonight, because now we know we have things to do.
yes.
right, and the overall budget right now is only up $214,000. So, it's the warrant article. Last year we used $425,000 for fundings. We can do that same amount again.
Okay, I have
Nothing about that.
I have one other issue I'm gonna bring up, because next week we have the 9/11 Commission meeting, all right? I have to admit, I was a little bit on the blindsided side at the last hearing, because I had thought that this whole board was, you know, galvanized as to sticking behind what the 9/11 Commission had brought forth. Which is why I made the opening statement that I made, that this board has made the decision. This public hearing is not about whether or not it's going to take place. Well, it turns out the majority of the board is not 100% behind them. And that being said, it's very hard for me to sit back here and make an opening statement. And seeing as how the majority of the board is for maybe making changes here and there, I personally would like to hand the gavel over during that hearing to whoever would like to with the majority of the board. I don't mind getting shot at if I've got the board behind me, but I'm not going to sit up here and get shot at if I don't. And that's going to leave Paul out of it next week. And it'll be an easy one next week.
And Chester.
Yeah, well, Chester was...
No, he lives there.
He lives on.
I know, But Chester was behind the 9/11 commission when he
Oh,
voted,
okay.
so.
You cancel each other out.
So it's either Jim or it's Chip, I think should gavel the hearing. Because I literally, I mean, I am 100% behind the 9/11 commission, so.
Okay.
Well,
After I saw it, I may not be behind you on the Bay Ridge one, the numbering is crazy. The new numbers are 10 times worse than the existing numbers. They make
Is that right?
no sense at all. I read it today. I
Well,
mean,
the numbers that they're proposing.
Yeah.
Actually, what I wanted to do
Yeah,
is,
ridiculous.
Paul is here, because I think you need to know your people down there if you're gonna have another meeting.
Mhm.
With the numbers utilizing the mailboxes is useless to find houses. They gotta come up with another means. They're all on the same side of the road, except for two.
The mailboxes?
Yeah,
If what you would like is a commitment from our neighborhood that we will post numbers better on our homes, then I think we can commit to that.
yeah, I drove down there, actually did it twice, because I says,
Yeah.
this is, what's screwed up about
I
this?
haven't read it,
And
but
I realized I couldn't tell if I was looking at 4 or 3.
I believe that we could easily go to the association and commit to have better numbers on the homes so that people can see the numbers on the homes.
And to answer your question, Vaughn, when you do Great Bay, we are renumbering that, that's all messed up.
Now,
That's terrible.
I will tell you, since I will be recused and sitting out here, that the neighborhood seems to want to have Osprey Cove as the name.
Yeah, I heard
I'm
that.
with you.
However, my political director at home thinks that's a terrible name, because there's never been an osprey in that cove.
How does she know?
Having been there for 50 years, she doesn't like that name.
You know what you know what you do, Paul? You get a statue of one and put it out a little time.
To use the line I used earlier tonight, this was not the hill I was gonna die on. So, I know that the second choice was Pine Cove.
Yeah, and that's
Pine has
not
been
good.
used somewhere else.
Yeah, we have a Pinewood Circle.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of
and so her view was oysters, because there really are oysters. Make it Oyster Cove. But again, this is not the hill that I'm gonna die on with all of my neighbors.
So you're gonna sit way in the back is what you're telling me, and just bite your tongue.
I don't like the number, but I will support the 9/11 commission, because if we're gonna change stuff, let's change it once, get it done. We're not gonna come back to it in 3 years and say, oh, now the numbers really should have been
Well,
changed
you know,
back then.
I've sat now on
And
3
that's it,
boards
so-
during this 9/11 thing, and right back from the beginning, the original board, it was brought to our attention that there was a safety issue here in town. And that board at that time put together the 9/11 committee to come up with a solution to the safety issue. They came up with a solution, they sat up here, and believe me, the first meeting, we were fired at. I'll never forget that. I mean, we got insulted, we got sworn at, we got rocks thrown at us, the whole lot.
And that was for private driveways with houses that were so far back, you didn't even know they existed.
The board did not acquiesce, they stood their ground.
The tears, we had tears.
Yeah. Because they believed that this was a safety issue and it trumped everything else, so.
And I
You know,
think in this upcoming neighborhood, there is a general recognition of the need for a change in the name of the road. There is no general recognition of a need for change in numbers.
Right.
And I think that was the case last.
Yes.
It was.
Now, but from the fire department's point of view, if you need us to commit to putting real decent numbers on our homes that can be seen.
I almost think we gotta do, every time we do one of these, whether it's new numbers or old numbers, they gotta do better markings on their homes.
And
I admit mine's gotta be better at my house.
You know, the thing about it is, somebody said, well, you know, let's just say you've got 1 inch strip of land between number 1 and number 13, all right? If somebody from out of town, outside help from out of town, mutual aid, comes ripping around the corner looking for number 13, it's a dark night, you got lights blaring and it's foggy out. Common sense is just gonna say there's one, boom, I'm going right by, I'm gonna go up the street. And by that time he turns around, comes back again, that's the difference between somebody living, dying, or drooling for the rest of their life. And that's the way I hate to be doom and gloom, but I have to look at the worst case scenario, and that's the way I look at it. I'd have my number changed, all right, and I understand the.
I even had my number changed where it was popular.
So anyway, that's where I'm coming from. I cannot sit up here and say what I say as an opening statement. And believe me, that opening statement really calmed everybody down, took the wind out of their sails. So even though you're still gonna get the fighting, you really are, and the bickering, but it did take the wind out of a lot of people's sails so that they realized that this is what the selectmen are doing. And every other board up until this one has gone along with it. And so my thing is I am more than happy to hand the gavel over to the majority. Anybody in the majority, and he's here pointing at you. And let you take it, you know.
And hit you over the head with
So anyway, you guys decide which one of you wants to, it's gonna be either you or Chip.
I have no problem with you making your statement. I mean, it's a.
I can't make that statement.
It's on a case by case. We changed another guy's place down on the corner of.
None, right?
I go along with only if the 9/11
Change the numbers to make it correct.
whatever they go along with, I go along.
Worse than what it is
They
already.
approve, I approve. If they don't approve, I don't approve.
I mean, this
And that's
is
just the way it
crazy.
It is.
And I.
Okay, so moving right along. I spoke my piece, and let's do the manifest.
That's fine, they're right here. Okay. I move we approve general fund accounts payable manifest number 20 in the amount of $412,986.18, of which $335,000 is the school.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I move we approve payroll manifest number 20 in the amount of $58,843.90.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Two quick items.
Go ahead.
First quick item, please. Thursday night is the meeting the planning board is having on Sea Rise. That's at Sandy Point at 6:30, where there'll be informational discussions that are coming from the Regional Planning Commission with the idea of potentially adopting an overlay district in areas affected by Sea Rise. So that starts 6:30 at Thursday night at Sandy Point. The second thing is we had a communication from Jillian Lane, who was asking to be appointed to the State Cancer Cluster Commission. I believe we had already appointed Martha Wassel,
Correct.
We have, yeah.
and so that's
And
fine.
that's what I told Jillian. She says, well, it looks like I'm too late to get to the table.
Okay. However, I would certainly suggest that Martha talk to her, and if it's possible to have her as an alternate, or in some other ways cooperate with her in that. I don't want in any way denigrate her request and her interest, but just perhaps run it along that way.
I don't have a problem with that either. Certainly, put your more than 10 cents worth in these meetings. So, do you want to make a motion to appoint her as an alternate?
Frankly, I'd wait to see what
Right.
Martha has to say.
And I can check to see if we're allowed to appoint her as an
Okay.
alternate, because that was a request that came down from the, like the governor's council to
Okay.
appoint.
It's a legislative committee,
Yeah.
and so I believe that she and Martha will continue to work together, and they'll keep each other informed. That's great.
And I have one other thing to say too. We have a budget, your first budget meeting, some kind of a budget meeting on the 5th, on the 4th. No,
Chip is the budget committee rep.
Wednesday night.
Yeah.
The budget committee apparently has called a hearing to talk about final results of school numbers or something.
Okay. I just want to reiterate, I think it's important that as many members of the Board of Selectmen can make it, try to make it, because we back up our liaison to the budget committee, and it's worked very well over the past 8 years I've been a selectman. So if you can make it, you're down here to back Chip up and follow up when you're facing whatever they face. So
Right. I expect this Wednesday one will be a very brief.
it probably will, yeah.
I do, except I'm sure they will come and say, well, what are you hearing about the town? Tell us about the town.
Right.
And so what we can say is what we learned this evening, that things are still in flux. However, we've made a tax rate decision, and we know that we have challenges in the fire department building, other things. So you're going to be hearing plenty. And we would also tell them that we've carefully asked the library trustees to make a presentation to both them and the community and back up what they think they might like to have.
Right, and now that I have their number from them, I'll talk to Bond Bank about exactly what the cost would be.
Yeah.
And bond council is a percentage of the bond anyway.
Okay, great. Okay, any other business to come before this honorable board? All right, I'll entertain a motion to,
I move we adjourn.
at
10:20? 10:17?
10:18.
10:18. I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.